Conference. Day is Monday, May 9th, 2022. Pursuant to House Rule 10.01, this meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting, both virtually and in person. I'll have Committee Legislative Aid take the roll. Ms. Rudolph. Who takes the roll? Do we take the roll? I guess.
Yes, Chair Nelson, Benji should be doing that.
Okay, thank you. Benji, I'm sorry, I named the wrong. Mr. Brinks, sorry about that. Are you there, Mr. Brinks?
I can fill in for him right now. On the House side, Chair Nelson.
Present.
Chair Hornstein.
Hornstein present.
Representative Murphy.
Murphy present.
Representative Cagle.
Present.
And Representative Nash.
Nash present.
On the House side, Chair Kiffmeyer.
Present.
Chair Newman.
Here.
Senator Howe. Senator Howe. Senator Jasinski.
Jasinski here.
And Senator Dibble.
Dibble present.
With that, we're all present except for Senator Howe.
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair Kiffmeyer. We want to quickly do introductions. I'll start with myself. I'm Representative Nelson. I chair the State Government Finance and Elections Committee in the House, and this is my bill that everything is put onto. Next, Senator or Representative Hornstein, you want to briefly introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. Frank Hornstein. I represent District 61A and parts of downtown and southwest Minneapolis, chairing the House Transportation Committee, and we'll be going over our provisions after state government finance.
And Representative Cagle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excuse me, Representative Mary Cagle, Vice Chair of the Transportation Committee. Excited to be here today.
I have the list of names here in front of me. We have Representative Nash from the House. We have.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Representative Jim Nash, representing District 47A, Western Carver County. I am the minority lead on state government finance, and I'm the minority appointee to the conference committee.
Thank you, Representative Nash. And did I miss one on the House?
Me.
Oh, Representative Murphy.
Murphy, yes.
Sorry, Representative Murphy.
I'm Mary Murphy. I'm State Representative District 3B, and I'm a former chair of State Government Finance, and I've been many years on the LCPR, the Legislative Commission for Pensions and Retirement, of which you are now Vice Chair, Ms. Representative Nelson, and I am also a member of the Transportation Committee for the first time, and I came to the Transportation Committee with the idea that as chair of the Capital Investment Committee, I could not understand why there were so many requests for transportation infrastructure bills in the Bonding Committee or Capital Investments Committee, and so I thought I've got to join the Transportation Committee, and so I'm newly the second year on that committee, and I've learned a lot, and so I think it's mainly my expertise in tangents and transportation, new transportation expertise that I am on this committee.
Thank you, Representative Murphy.
Recording in progress.
Chair Kiffmeyer, you want to introduce the Senate people?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will start with Senator Newman.
Yeah, I'm Scott Newman. I am from Senate District 18, just west of the Twin Cities, about 60 miles, and I am chair of the Senate Transportation Committee.
And Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Jasinski, District 24 is Faribault, Ottawa-Waseca, just south of Minneapolis. I'm the chair of local government, and I've been the vice chair of transportation for 6 years, and also was on state gov for 4 years beginning as well. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm State Senator Scott Dibble. The most interesting fact about me is that I'm Frank Hornstein's senator. So I represent most of Southwest Minneapolis, a little of downtown, a little of south, and I am the lead Democrat, the lead minority member of the Transportation Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Senator Howe is not with us right now. We expect him shortly. And I am Senator Mary Kiffmeyer, and I represent Senate District 30, and that includes right now Big Lake, Elk River, Otsego, Albertville, St. Michael, Hanover, and 14 homes in Dayton. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Kiffmeyer. With that, members, what we're planning on doing this morning and what we're planning, or this afternoon, I guess it is, but we plan on doing, and what we're planning on doing here, we're going to break this into two parts. The state government finance, we're going to have a brief walkthrough on this for about 25 minutes, and then we're going to have testimony on that part of the bill. And then in hour and a half, halfway through the conference committee, we're going to hand it over to transportation. Senator Newman and Representative Hornstein, and we'll let them chair the meeting, and we'll walk through that first portion of the bill, and we'll take transportation. The intention is right now, unless something changes, that's what we talked about doing again tomorrow. And then as we work through the bill, we'll try and divide it so that we don't have one side dominate the other, but there were two specific bills and two specific committees that these came out of, and we want to give both of them a chance to be able to work through their issues. And so with that, I'm going to hand this over to Mr. Gehring and Miss
James.
Miss James, thank you, to walk through the bill side by side for the state government policy provisions of the bill.
Mr. Chair, Matt Gehring from House Research. Do you, Mr. Chair, want to walk through the spreadsheet first, or do you want to jump right into the policy article?
Why don't we walk through the policy, and then we can do the spreadsheet on another day.
Then, Mr. Chair, we'll walk through what is Article 2 on the House side of the bill and Article 5 on the Senate side of the bill, which is the state government policy and state government operations articles in each body. And then Ms. James and I think we'll just go back and forth based on what language is either House only or Senate only. And the first section in there is actually a Senate only section, so I might turn it over to Ms. James then.
James, welcome to the committee.
Mr. Chair and members, yes, Stephanie James, Senate Counsel. The document that I'm going to work from is labeled on the links that you have as a same and similar document, but it really is a little more than that. It has comparison of all the provisions in both of the House and Senate side, and then with notations about what's same and similar. The first section is a Senate-only section. It establishes the giant beaver as the state fossil. The second section on the Senate side is also on the House side, So Article 2, Section 1 on the House side and Article 5, Section 2 on the Senate side. This allows the executive director of the LCC to enter into contracts for legislative entities with certain constraints. There's differences between the House and the Senate here. The House requires only that the director consult with the chair and vice chair of the LCC before entering into a contract for more than $50,000. The Senate requires written approval. The next section is a Senate-only section, several sections, Article 5, Sections 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. These sections authorize the Legislative Budget Office to prepare fiscal notes when an agency does not prepare a fiscal note, and this allows the LBO to access agency employees to provide information for the LBO to prepare the fiscal note. It also provides for the treatment of data in confidential fiscal notes. The next section, also Senate only, Article 5, Section 6, precludes the Attorney General from using external staff and resources in certain circumstances.
And Mr. Chair, next on the table, you'll see the first House only section. This is House Article 2, Section 2 is language that modifies the standards that MMB uses to accept security for deposit of state funds. House only Section 3 and also Section 69 of this article are two sections that establish Juneteenth as a state holiday on June 19th of each year. The series of sections that follow, Sections 4 through 10 of Article 2, are House-only sections that authorize the governor to use his peacetime emergency powers in response to a cyber attack or other threats to the state's IT infrastructure. Then moving on to page 2 of that comparison document, you see a House-only section, Section 11, related to data practices. This is a section that updates language related to the rights of individuals to contest the accuracy or completeness of data that a government entity holds about them. House Section 12 on the comparison summaries, the second row you see there, eliminates a required fee that applies when a person requests an advisory opinion from the Department of Administration related to the open meetings law. And then the next section is the Senate-only section.
Senate Section 9 in Article 5 precludes agency rules from incorporating by reference the laws and rules of other states without getting approval by a legislative committee. The next section, also Senate-only, a pair of sections, Sections 10 and 63, precludes agencies from adopting rules that restrict consumer choice in purchasing motorized equipment based on fuel source, or that mandate retailer inventory of motorized equipment based on fuel source. The next section is the same on both sides. It precludes a series of sections. It precludes a current employee of the executive or judicial branch from serving on the Legislative Salary Council. It also removes some obsolete language and clarifies the timing of appointments.
Then, Mr. Chair, next is a House-only section, House Section 16 of Article 2, that requires MMB to approve the rates charged to agencies for the use of the statewide accounting system. Section 17 is related to Section 16 and it relates to the way that the agencies are billed. So this eliminates a cap on the amount that MMB can charge for those services and it eliminates a requirement of consultation with the agency. Section 18 of Article 2 authorizes agencies with a project that's funded by a building appropriation to allow a consultant to proceed with supplemental work on that project, even if the funds haven't been encumbered. This is consistent with the work of contractors that are working on that project. So this extends that authority to consultants working on the project in addition to contractors themselves.
The next item is two sections on the Senate side. These eliminate a requirement to evaluate the costs of on-site renewable energy for a state-funded building project. It also precludes sustainable building guidelines from requiring renewable energy sources to be located on the building site.
Then next, Mr. Chair, is a series of House-only sections. The first row you see there relates to the Designer Selection Board. Sections 19, 20, 21, 22, and later Section 28 all relate to the Designer Selection Board. There's a variety of changes in there. Probably the more significant one is the increase in the cost threshold for when the Designer Selection Board process has to be used to choose a designer. The increase goes from the current standard of $2 million to $4 million. House Section 23, next on that row, is language that codifies the Office of Collaboration and Dispute Resolution as an office within the Department of Administration. Article 2, Section 24 of the House language creates an Office of Enterprise Translations, which would provide services to state agencies that need language translation services. Section 25 of the House language goes a little bit, it's not directly, it's related, it's not the exact same topic, but it establishes an account that would be used to reimburse agencies for the cost of receiving and providing translation services to users.
Sections 16 and 17 on the Senate side in Article 5 add requirements for certain non-governmental organizations that receive state grants or aid. They require grantees that receive grants of over $500,000 to meet certain additional requirements.
Mr. Chair, next is a whole series of House-only sections. The next section, Section 26, establishes a default amount for state agencies to retain from grant appropriations to be used for administrative costs associated with the grant. The default amount that would apply if the law doesn't specify would be either 5 or 10% of the grant appropriation, depending on the type of grant that it is. Section 27 modifies the scope of the existing law that authorizes emergency purchases to permit the Commissioner of Administration to approve purchases necessary for design and construction of publicly owned structures. House Section 29 authorizes the minute to make grants to look to political subdivisions for cybersecurity related risks and threats. And then a whole series, where you're looking at the side-by-side itself, you'll see a whole series of House sections that follow that are policy sections that come from the Advisory Task Force on State Employment and Retention of Employees with Disabilities. So sections 30 through 34, as well as 46 to 54, all come from that single bill that seeks to expand opportunities for employees with disabilities to move on in their careers within the state government. Sections 44 and 45 are actually related to military pay, and I believe has been addressed by the separate agreement on the military veterans bill, so I'll skip that for right now. House sections 55, 64, 65, and 66 all relate to the Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. So there's standards in current law for the way that certain funds are deposited with MMB that relate to housing, that relate to interest on trust accounts related to housing. These are sort of complicated sections, but the sort of gist of it is that instead of these funds being deposited with MMB, they'd be deposited with Minnesota Housing Finance Agency. So that's House sections 55, 64, 65, and 66.
The next item is Section 18 on the Senate side in Article 5. It requires MMB to consider salary survey data when proposing salaries for state law enforcement personnel. It precludes MMB from proposing salaries based on pattern bargaining or internal equity data. The next item, Section 19 on the Senate side, eliminates the PCA's authority to set standards on maximum allowable emission of air contaminants. And the next item, Section 20 on the Senate side, precludes the PCA from enforcing or attempting to enforce unadopted rules. The next item is several sections that's the same in both bills. It allows additional investment options for counties, cities, and self-insurance pools. The next item, also the same in both bills, eliminates the Board of Trustees Candidate Advisory Committee that selects members of the Board of Trustees for Minnesota State. There's a related repealer later that relates to that as well. The next item is a House-only item.
So Chair, the next House Sections 60 and 61 are House-only items. That's updates to some of the statutes that reflect the transition of the State Historic Preservation Office from the Minnesota Historical Society to the Department of Administration. So these are come from the Department of Administration and are presented as technical updates to reflect that change. House Section 62 and Senate Section 49 that follow relate to the Mississippi River Parkway Commission. There's similar language in both bodies that set 4-year staggered terms for citizen members of the commission. The Senate has some differences from the House in that language, in that it changes the Historical Society to the State Historic Preservation Office as one of the appointing authorities for a member of the commission. And then the House also, in the sort of structure that builds out the staggered terms, the House specifies a specific term schedule for members from Elk River and Hastings. House Section 63 is a House-only section that relates to burial grounds and how they're treated. There's a number of, it's a long section, there's a number of changes within that section related to the way that human remains and burial sites are treated on non-federal public or private lands, including those within those changes are as a requirement that state archaeologists and the Indian Affairs Council enter a memorandum of understanding regarding each entity's responsibilities in the treatment of these burial sites.
The next item is a Senate-only provision, Section 50 in Article 5. This allows for additional uses of the Breeders' Fund relating to racehorse adoption, retirement, and repurposing. This has passed both bodies and should be, and will become law if the governor signs it. The next item, Capital Area Security Advisory Committee extends the Capital Area Security Advisory Committee to June 30th, 2036. This has passed the House and is now on general orders in the Senate. The next item is Senate-only Section 52 with a related repealer. This provides for expired licenses issued by the Board of Accountancy to be reinstated in the same manner as suspended or revoked licenses, and this has passed the House as well. The next item is a Senate-only Sections 53, 54, and 55 in Article 5. These allow electronic pull tab devices, games, and systems to be used if, at the time they were first implemented, they satisfied the rules at that time, and they can continue to be used even if later adopted rules in some way preclude them.
And Mr. Chair, next on the list is a House-only section, House Section 67, which requires statutory and home rule charter cities to allow property owners to maintain native natural landscapes on their private property.
Next item, Section 56 in Article 5 on the Senate side precludes the use of municipal IDs as identification for proof of identity for receipt of state services or federal program benefits that are administered by the state.
And then next is House only, House Section 68 authorizes statutory and home rule charter cities to adopt ordinances requiring hotels within the city or town's boundaries to be licensed.
Senate Section 57 in Article 5 with a related revisor, instruction, and repealer set the state on standard time year-round starting in 2030 if, before that point, Congress hasn't passed a law that allows the state to be on daylight savings time year-round. We already have in current law that the state will switch to daylight savings time year-round if Congress allows it. But this wouldn't switch it in 2030. If we switch to daylight savings time year-round between now and then we would just stay there. But if nothing's happened by 2030, then this would switch to standard time year-round.
Mr. Chair, next is House only Section 69. I mentioned already the Juneteenth state holiday that's been established. This replaces the existing Christopher Columbus Day holiday with Indigenous Peoples Day, and also would make Indigenous Peoples Day a mandated state holiday as opposed to the permissive holiday recognition that exists for Christopher Columbus Day. House Section 71 is identical in both bodies. This authorizes the IRRR to provide a separation of retention incentive for employees of that department. House Section 72 is House only. This directs the Commissioner of Administration to conduct a study of unique issues that face small state government agencies. House Section 73 and 74, as well as the repealer in Section 79, establishes a commission to develop, design, and recommend to the legislature new designs for the official state flag as well as the official state seal. And then as part of that repealer, the existing state flag and seal will be retired as of May 11th, 2023, which is Statehood Day in 2023. House Section 75 establishes a legislative task force on aging. They have a number of duties related to studying state demographics and issues affecting healthy aging within the state. House Section 76 that requires the Commissioner of MMB to convene an advisory committee to review and make recommendations related to laws governing service worker class specifications that are provided in law. And then House Section 78, also a House-only section, directs the revisor of statutes in consultation with House Research and Senate Counsel to conduct a review of the Minnesota statutes to determine compliance with the Federal Equal Rights Amendment, focusing on sex-specific language that appears in the statutes.
Section 60 on the Senate side in Article 5 requires the Minnesota Amateur Sports Commission to study the possibility of placing a training center in Dakota County. The next item, Senate Section 62, requires the Chief Geospatial Information Officer to report on the status of public land monuments and the work that's needed to update those monuments.
And Mr. Chair, that's the end of the policy article, House Article 2 and Senate Section 5.
Thank you, Mr. Gehring and Ms. James. With that, we will start taking testimony, and I'm just figure we'll go to about 20 minutes after 2, 25 after 2 with testimony, and then we'll hand this over to transportation and go from there. And members, we have session in House starting at 3:30, so you may have to leave. You may have to adjourn before 4 o'clock so we can get over and get signed into the House, to the legislature, to the session in the House chamber. So with that, the first person on my list is Attorney General Keith Ellison. Welcome to the committee, and please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
My name is Keith Ellison. I'm the Attorney General for the state of Minnesota. And I would like to thank Chair Nelson and Chair Kiffmeyer and all the members of the conference committee for allowing me to address you this afternoon. I have two provisions I'd like to talk to you about. First, I'd like to speak in strong support and with great gratitude to the House for funding our supplemental budget request of an operating adjustment of $2.3 million. You can find this on line 17 of the spreadsheet. We asked this conference committee to adopt that language, and I'll explain why. For the fiscal year 2023, our general fund appropriation is $26 million. 20 years ago, our appropriation was $27 million. If funding would have merely kept pace with inflation in 2022, we would be at $39 million. We're not asking to go to $39 million. We're simply asking you to help us keep up with the needs of Minnesotans, which have changed a little in the last 20 years. We appreciate the investment that you've made in our office. The allocations you've already made have been very helpful, and they've been important to the people of our state. But this adjustment we're asking for now is also vital to make up what is a dramatic difference that has taken place over the last 20 years. The Attorney General's office is the largest statewide public law office in Minnesota. Few offices in Minnesota handle the range and complexity of civil litigation as the Attorney General's office, and our clients include more than 100 state agencies, boards, and commissions, including the state legislature, the governor's office, and every constitutional officer. We handle more than 7,000 legal files per year, and the Attorney General's office is a net contributor, often to the tune of millions of dollars to the general fund. A recent example is the historic opioid settlement. In near unanimous passage of both the House Democrats and Republicans in the Senate and for all the bodies last week of the opioid settlement bill that will return $300 million to the state. All 87 counties will benefit, and many cities, as an example of the work that the Attorney General's office does all the time. We need to retain an expert workforce so that we can make sure that we meet the legal needs of the people of the state of Minnesota. I'd also like to point out that our operating adjustment will also allow us to further support the backbone of our office, The capacity of administrative and non-legal side of our office has always been understaffed, and while employees of the office are very resourceful and continue to serve their colleagues well, the capacity is simply, they are simply beyond capacity at this point. The fact is our administrative functions, human resources, information technology, and finance to meet the needs of the office are stretched beyond limit. So our operating adjustment request is for $2.335 million, and the increase would be 4.3 to our base budget. I also should note to you that it's not before this conference committee, but we have asked for support for our criminal division, and I want to point out to you that according to Minnesota Statutes 8.01, we are strictly prohibited from entering into a case unless invited by a county attorney or the governor, but given the state of crime in our state, our services are needed. I just want you to know about that. That matters not before you. Now, perhaps the most important thing I need to talk to you about today, and at least is important, is unconstitutional language contained in in the bill. The Attorney General, no matter who is in office, is a constitutional officer, separately elected and therefore independent. This is written in our Constitution. The Supreme Court has long held that the Attorney General alone has the discretionary power over the conduct of litigation, and another branch of government cannot, quote, control the discretionary power of the Attorney General in conducting litigation for the state, unquote. The Constitution lays out a separation of powers that ensures that voters' decisions to elect their Attorney General is respected regardless of who is in office. The legislature cannot seek to control or impede the work of the Attorney General. Furthermore, there are provisions in the Senate policy language that would prohibit us from using pro bono attorneys, which saves the state millions of dollars, as well as prohibits us from contracting with outside law firms needed to pursue litigation in specialty areas such as bonding or environmental work, to name some examples. Therefore, Article 5, Section 6 of the Senate bill cannot be adopted, and if so, it will be an unconstitutional adoption. This policy provision, Article 5, Section 2, is derived from Senate File 2818. In the hearing on that bill, proponents made untrue claims of Bloomberg-funded attorneys. There are no Bloomberg-funded attorneys at our office. There are none. There are 2 attorneys out of 135 who are paid by a fellowship program at the New York University Law School. Their placement contract states that they are, quote, under the direction and control and owe a duty of loyalty to the office of the Minnesota Attorney General. I alone direct their work. That program status website states, quote, NYU pays the salaries of law fellows, but the fellows' sole duty of loyalty is to the Attorney General in whose office they serve. It has been reported that this program at NYU is in part funded by a grant from Bloomberg Philanthropies. Bloomberg Philanthropies is a 501c3 or nonprofit that is subject to the same laws and duties of transparency and accountability as any other nonprofit. You may know there are people on that board like retired Admiral Mike Mullen, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, U.S. Senator Sam Nunn, Hank Paulson, former chair of Goldman Sachs and Secretary of Treasury, and President George W. Bush. These 2 attorneys I've mentioned have provided invaluable service to the Minnesotans. They have worked on behalf of a number of cases, including Water Gremlin, which is a case where the manufacturer's practice allowed lead to migrate off-site, causing several cases of childhood lead poisoning. They also worked on a case which I directed them to work on called State of Minnesota versus the American Petroleum Institute, ExxonMobil Corporation, and Koch Industries. This case was filed at my discretion, not theirs. And this case is a landmark consumer protection case, no different from historic legislation to control things like lead in gasoline and in paint, tobacco, and of course the historic opioid litigation. The fact is, I allege, and we allege in our lawsuit, that these 3 defendants knew about and instead hid and lied about the dangers of their product and had a false campaign to deceive Minnesotans. It is a lawsuit very much, as I said, like tobacco or opioids. It may interest you to know that in publicly available documents show that the Freedom Fund of Minnesota, run by Ms. Annette Meeks, who has testified in favor of the underlying bill, is funded by the American Petroleum Institute, one of the defendants in this lawsuit, and in part by the Charles G. Koch Foundation, the family foundation of another one of the defendants. In essence, the defendants are asking the legislature to help them avoid being held accountable for their false statements by asking you to handcuff the plaintiffs, the state of Minnesota. This matter belongs in the court, not the Minnesota State Legislature. We will prove our allegations or not. Intervention by the legislature to stop us from protecting consumers for the benefit of people who have alleged to have violated our consumer statutes is not right. In conclusion, I respectfully request funding for a supplemental budget and ask you to reject the unconstitutional policy language in the Senate bill. Thank you very much. And I stand for
Thank
any
you, Attorney
questions.
General. Thank you, Attorney General.
Thank you.
The next person I have on my list and member and testifiers, if we can, so we can get through the testifiers, if we can limit your testimony to around 4 minutes, that would be helpful for the committee. The next person is Nicole Freeman from the Secretary of State's office. Ms. Freeman, welcome to the committee. And the person after that, so we can get lined up, is Ms. Rattan from the Deputy Commissioner from MMB. So welcome to the committee, Ms. Freeman. Please identify yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Nelson and conference committee members. My name is Nicole Freeman, and I am the Government Relations Director for the Secretary of State, Steve Simon. I'm here today to speak on provisions that haven't been previewed yet, so happy to come back another day as well if that's helpful, but we'll run through what we have so far prepared. I am going to talk both about some items that we support as well as provisions that we have concerns on. So our supplemental budget requests are in the House version of this bill, and want to thank the House members for that. One request, we have two of them. They are modest, but represent two needed positions here in our office. One of those requests is IT related and adds a Chief Information Officer to our staff. As the programs administered by our office continue to increase in IT complexity, we are finding that a Chief Information Officer or CIO is really needed. Each program within the Secretary's office has unique technology needs as well as security requirements, and all of those require ongoing technical development, investment, and maintenance. And while each of our divisions is currently served by strong and competent IT leaders, a CIO would really provide a whole-of-office approach to us, ensuring that the Office of Secretary of State is providing the best IT solutions as well as securities to Minnesotans and the businesses it serves. Our second request is one we have asked for in the past in our last year's budget request, but wasn't funded. And this request is coming in large part from our partners, from civic education as well as youth partner organizations for a permanent position for our civic and youth outreach. Creating a full-time civic and youth outreach program within the office will allow us to engage with students on an ongoing basis and ensure that they have the tools, as well as their educators, have the tools to become educated and lifelong voters. Finally, the other piece in the House bill that is budget related is the federal government, a piece around HAVA funding. The federal government recently, in their appropriations bill in March, issued new HAVA grant funding, and the House bill includes both the state match that's required as well as language that allows the Secretary's office to distribute the money. Moving on to some elections provisions. We support various technical, administrative, and policy changes that are in the House bill. To keep things short today, I just wanted to highlight a few that are impactful. The first of that is being the protections around election judges and election officials through the language in the House bill, which is sections 59 and 61. It's a way for us to demonstrate that our support for those administering our free and fair elections. When this provision was heard in the committee, we heard about the increasing tension as well as threats that our election workers are dealing with at all levels, from our elections director in the Secretary of State's office to county election administrators, as well as we heard from election judges in that committee. Passing these sections would provide a tool to punish perpetrators of an egregious act of harassment, coercion, or doxing, should something like that happen in Minnesota. We've seen these crimes occur across the country and need these protections in place in Minnesota before something happens here. Another common sense provision that should earn your support is Section 45 of the House bill, which would require the state canvassing board to declare the state and federal candidates who receive the highest number of votes for each election the winners. This would update language and allow it to match the direction of county canvassing boards. Moving on to some language that we have concerns about. In the Senate file, we have concerns with several sections that present logistical challenges to local administration. It also removes several of the sections remove flexibility for local jurisdictions to run the elections in the manner that would best serve their voters. Additionally, with provisions in the Senate bill, we share voter privacy concerns, both in the reclassification of state voter registration data in sections 7 through 11, as well as the live streaming provisions around drop boxes, as well as those requiring live streaming for various activities performed by absentee ballot boards. We've heard from local administrators about the feasibility concerns around these live streaming provisions, and so I just wanted to highlight that as well. With that, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm open for questions and we'll be here tomorrow as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Freeman. I guess I didn't ask before, are there any questions? I think the idea today is to get through the testimony, and we may have questions as we in the committee walk through the bill. The next person I have on my list is Mr. Tan. The next person after that get set up or teed up is Ms. Alice Roberts Davis, Commissioner for the Department of Administration. So, Mr. Tan, welcome to the committee, and state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, members of the committee. My name is Britta Rayton, Deputy Commissioner for Minnesota Management and Budget. I appreciate the opportunity to testify today. First, I want to mention that I'm happy to see that the House proposal adopts the governor's recommendation to address our critical funding shortfall for the IT systems that MMB manages. These make up our state's enterprise resource planning technology, and these IT systems are essential for day-to-day operations across state government, including accounting, procurement, data reporting, payroll, human resource management, recruiting, and employee benefits. It currently costs MMB approximately $22 million each year to maintain, operate, and enhance the state's ERP systems. These critical systems do not have a sustainable funding source. Under statute, there is only one dedicated funding source, the statewide systems account, and MMB is currently authorized to bill state agencies only $10 million annually. The funding provided in this bill addresses a key finding from the Office of the Legislative Auditor in their 2018 report, that MMB and the legislature have a shared responsibility to find a sustainable funding solution. It is imperative that this recommendation, which will allow MMB to stabilize, secure, and sustain these at-risk systems, is included in the conference agreement. I want to highlight that part of this request is for funding for an upgrade of our data warehouse. This has not been upgraded since 2011. The need for this upgrade has become incredibly clear in recent weeks. Over the past 2 weeks, the data warehouse has experienced 2 outages that impacted end users' ability to use the system. And there has been a total of 37 hours where the system was late in completing its daily loads. And the agencies and the legislature rely on that to manage daily business. All of these outages and delays were directly associated with aging hardware and software that require immediate investment. Beyond the proposal to sustain and stabilize our ERP system, the governor put forward other recommendations to advance and enhance MMB's ability to serve Minnesotans, and many of those are included in the House proposal. Those include an investment for evaluating the impact of state investments, which provides the personnel necessary to conduct additional rigorous evaluations of new or innovative projects and help determine whether those state investments are cost-effective, as well as funding for cross-agency coordination of the Children's Cabinet, which would provide funding to support that coordination across agencies on issues impacting children. Additionally, there's funding for the capital budget outreach and assistance, which would increase MMB's capacity to provide technical assistance to communities and nonprofits that have traditionally not participated in the state capital budget process, as well as collateral modernization, which allows banks to use lines of credit which function like insurance as collateral to compete for the state's banking business. It's important to note that banks already have this option when serving local governments, as well as housing trust fund transfers, which streamline government services by moving the revenue collection responsibilities for the housing trust fund in the manufactured home relocation trust fund account from MMB to Minnesota Housing Finance Agency, which is the agency where the programs funded from these accounts are managed. The bill also includes the military pay differential provision, which clarifies payment procedures for employees in reserve forces who report to active service. These service members are paid the difference between their state pay and active service pay. And the bill also makes sure that service members previously overpaid in error do not need to repay those funds to the state. I would like to thank Chair Nelson for including this language in his committee's bill, and Senator Kiffmeyer for amending this language into Senate File 4233. I would also like to register objections to 3 portions of the Senate bill. The first concern regards what is or is not permissible to address when negotiating wages with law enforcement. The language would amend the state's compensation statute for just one specific group of employees, law enforcement employees, so that MMB would be acting in bad faith in the collective bargaining negotiations process by using pattern bargaining. I want to be clear that our concern is not related to state troopers or the law enforcement bargaining unit. Like other state employees, state troopers have been called upon for extraordinary service, and we appreciate the need to recognize that. We do, however, have concerns about how that recognition is put into law. And one of the primary concerns is that defining bad faith in this way will alter the basis for bargaining, not only for this group of employees, but also for the other 31,000 employees with whom we negotiate. It is important to note that we did reach a voluntary settlement with MLEA, and the contract was approved last week and sent to the SER and is awaiting legislative action. As part of that settlement, MLEA received 2.5 and 2.5 across the board increases. We also agreed to make other compensation adjustments as part of this contract that can be implemented as soon as the legislature takes action. The second concern we have in the Senate bill is that the proposal to expand the authority for the Legislative Budget Office was added as an amendment in the Senate Finance Committee without an opportunity to testify. First, MMB budget staff, who play a crucial role in maintaining the state's financial integrity, should not be prohibited from being involved in the preparation of unofficial fiscal notes. Second, the bill has language that gives LBO mandated access to state employees. This relationship between the LBO and state agencies is critical to completing fiscal notes. However, the proposal to permit access to subject matter experts within state agencies should be built on strong working relationships and not mandated by statute. Finally, in the transportation section of the bill, an amendment was added to have MMB provide a report regarding alternative methods for selecting members of the Metropolitan Council. The language raises many questions regarding how such a study would be done. It's not an area of expertise for MMB, nor is there funding provided to undertake such a study. We look forward to working with you in the coming days as this conference committee meets, and I'm available to answer any questions.
I'm muted there. Mr. Roberts Davis, the next person up is Mr. Terry Combs, and then Rick King is after that. Welcome to the committee, Ms. Davis. Roberts Davis, please introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony. And again, try to keep it to like 4 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. For the record, I'm Alice Roberts Davis, Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Administration. Thank you for the opportunity to share comments on House File 4293. Minnesota's historic budget surplus offers us the unique opportunity to invest in our communities and ensure that key support services are available to serve Minnesotans. As you know, our state government partners rely on admin to provide the critical services that keep them operating effectively. Admin's divisions offer a wide range of services that include negotiating master contracts and managing construction projects to assessing archaeological sites and resolving disputes. The governor recommended key investments in admin services to strengthen the work that we do for state agencies. The House and Senate versions of the state government omnibus bill offer vastly different scenarios for admin's supplemental budget. We were disappointed that the Senate did not fund additional investments to improve services to state agencies and Minnesotans. But we very much appreciate the work done by the House to fund essential operations of state government. By including the majority of Governor Walz's budget recommendations for the admin, the House is funding previous legislative commitments as well as bolstering the service that admin can provide to state agencies so that they can deliver the services that Minnesotans expect. Our letter to the committee goes into greater detail, but the House bill makes strategic investments to ensure that state dollars have the most impact by leveraging federal funds for the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, or PTAC. This office helps businesses build the capacity to effectively compete and earn local, state, and federal contracts. Just last week, the U.S. Small Business Administration honored PTAC as a champion of veteran-owned businesses, noting that since 2017, when PTAC joined the state of Minnesota, contracts won by veteran-owned businesses have grown from $6.8 million to $27 million in 2021. That's a $20.2 million increase in just 4 years, and the dollars going to those businesses and their communities that can be credited to the outreach and support of our Procurement Technical Assistance Center. Additionally, the SBA also recognized the work of the Office of Equity and Procurement just last week, and one example that they highlighted was the fact that in 2015, only $119,000 of the state's billions of dollars in contracting went to Black-owned businesses. Today, more than $4 million is spent with Black-owned businesses, and that increase is directly attributable to the small but tenacious team in the Office of Equity and Procurement. The House bill also improves administrative oversight of public grants awards with additional funding for the Office of Grants Management. Additionally, the House bill will enhance admin's operations in the areas of human resources, accounting, and dispute resolution. I want to highlight that the Office of Collaboration and Dispute Resolution was instrumental in facilitating an agreement between the Attorney General, the state, as well as an agreement with all 87 Minnesota counties to sign on to the opioid settlement legislation that just passed the House and Senate last week. This work ensured that all stakeholders received a fair share of the settlement funds. That's the kind of work that you are supporting when you fund admin's supplemental budget requests. The House bill will also stabilize the fleet fund and streamlines work in the Data Practices Office. It also covers the costs related to COVID-19 workers' compensation claims under Chapter 32, which was passed earlier this session. Investments in a new Office of Enterprise Translations will provide critical information translated for Minnesotans in a timely manner. I want to also note that admin would be the fiscal agent for the additional funding for public television block grants in the House bill. Since this is a significant increase to the grants that we administer to public television stations, we anticipate that we would need up to 3% to administer the $2 million in the bill. And finally, admin appreciates the inclusion of important policy changes. Updating the Private Cemeteries Act will reflect federal law and begin to modernize outdated terminology related to archaeology. The update also clarifies authority over cemetery assessments and recognizes the sovereignty of the tribal nations that share our borders. The bill provides the necessary capacity for the Office of the State Archaeologist to coordinate this work. Additionally, the House bill includes admin's technical and policy language changes, and these are good governance measures with no fiscal impact that help admin improve the state operations by streamlining our work and correcting obsolete statutes. While the Senate version of the bill does not include any of the governor's budget recommendations for admin, we do appreciate the inclusion of flexibility for buildings subject to the Sustainable Building 2030 requirements. The ability to projects to utilize renewable energy generated off-site would be a significant improvement. However, admin's proposed changes to the statute that are included in the House Omnibus Jobs, Energy, and Commerce Bill would enhance these provisions by providing additional options for projects. We also recognize the amendments made to the Senate's new requirements related to grants oversight, and while these changes ease the burden of one-person Office of Grants Management in implementing new requirements, admin still has concerns with the proposed changes in the Senate bill. I thank you for the Conference Committee's time and your consideration of our requests. We look forward to working with you through the Conference Committee process. I'll stand for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there any immediate questions? If not, when we get to those sections of the bill, we can, hopefully they can still be here. Next person I have is Commissioner Tomes. Welcome to the committee, and after that is Mr. King, and then Mr. Schendel is after him. So if you can be prepared to come up, it'll save us some time. Welcome to the committee, Commissioner. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Nelson, Chair Kiffmeyer, and conference committee members. For the record, my name is Tarek Tomes, and I am the state's Chief Information Officer and the Commissioner of Minnesota IT Services. Thank you for the opportunity today to testify on House File 4293. Minnesota IT Services change items this session reflect a comprehensive strategic approach to reducing cybersecurity risk amidst an environment of heightened and evolving threats. We are proposing investments in advanced cybersecurity tools, as well as investments to address technology debt that has been acquired over many years. As society continues its rapid transition to a mobile-friendly, digital-first world, the state's digital services must adapt now. These investments in our strategic approach are heavily influenced by the work of the Blue Ribbon Council on Information Technology and the robust work of the Technology Advisory Committee chaired by Rick King. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen time and time again the importance of technology as a connector, enabler, and catalyst for improved services in an increasingly digital world. Now is the time to recognize both the reality of the cybersecurity threat landscape we operate within and the challenge that lies before us in the form of accrued technology debt, aging systems, many of them custom developed that drive agency business operations, but also constrain our ability to innovate and present risk to the stable, ongoing delivery of state government services. By acquiring more sophisticated cyber defense layers, investing in an accelerated move to the cloud, a strategic approach to modernizing applications, a commitment to digital accessibility, and investing in more modern, secure digital services, we lay the foundation to provide Minnesotans with the seamless digital service experience that they expect and deserve. Further, we have a rare opportunity to reduce statewide cybersecurity risk with a modest state investment to receive federal grant funds that will primarily benefit our partners in county, local, and tribal governments. Minute stands by, ready to support this grant program in collaboration with our greater Minnesota partners. Addressing the state's significant IT debt will be a many years journey. It should not be delayed until the next biennial budget cycle. A delay in making these critical modernization investments will continue to increase risk to Minnesotans and the services they rely on. In addition to modernizing systems, it is essential that we invest in the sustainability of those investments. For that reason, I would also urge the committee to fully fund MMB's proposal for stabilizing and sustaining the state's ERP systems. We are at a critical juncture. We can set our state firmly on a path to provide more efficient, effective, approachable, and secure state services for all Minnesotans. These funding requests can help us fundamentally shift the way technology supports the mission of state government and enable IT to serve as a secure digital connector and catalyst for more efficient state government service delivery. It is my responsibility to relentlessly advocate for the ways that technology can improve outcomes for the people of Minnesota, and we may not experience another moment of action quite like this one. The governor's budget recommendations recognize both the increased cyber threat level we face today and the opportunity that stands before us to leverage cloud technology to modernize our operations and services. As noted in more detail in the letter submitted to the committee, I would like to note my appreciation to the House and Chair Nelson for including these provisions. I look forward to the opportunity in the remaining days of session to further discuss with Chair Kiffmeyer and the other Senate conferees on the importance of these initiatives. Since the last state government budget agreement was reached on June 30th, 2021, cybersecurity threats have continued to increase. The FBI has reported a nearly 70% increase in cybercrime since 2019. These increased risks must be met with the urgency they necessitate. We look forward to working with you to fulfill our responsibilities to protect Minnesotans, their data, and the services they rely upon during a period of increasing geopolitical uncertainty and cyber threats, and to accelerate the transformation of digital government services. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I see no hands jumping up for questions. The next person is Mr. King, and after that is a Mr. Schindel, and after that would be Mr. Hilgert. Welcome to the committee, Mr. King. Is Mr. King there?
Thank you very much.
He's up. Welcome to the committee, Mr. King. Identify yourself for the record. Proceed.
Thank you very much. My name is Rick King. I chair the Technology Advisory Council for the state. I also serve on a variety of different boards, notably on technology committees on boards that are protecting themselves against cyber aggressions. Chair Nelson and Chair Kiffmeyer, thank you for having me here. I stand in support of the various provisions in the minute budget that have been spoken to here and that are listed. I speak in favor of those because I am concerned as a citizen and concerned as a technology executive about the kind of preparation that we need to make to increase our capabilities against the bad guys in terms of cyber protection in our state. We have a rare opportunity here where funding allows one-time work for both cyber protection and modernization, which also will be prioritized in order to protect the state and modernize the underlying infrastructure. These things that I advocate for that are in the budget under the House side are the types of things that the private sector is doing as aggressively as they can to prepare for the onslaught of cyber bad guys. The fact that grants can be made to cities and counties is a benefit here. The matching money that's required to bring in some of the federal money is also very incredible, and we've got that opportunity in front of us to help us better protect the state. As I said, all of these investments are very much in line with what we see in private industry right now and what people are trying to do as this landscape is fast changing and always taking new turns that force us to try to protect ourselves in new and different ways. Speed is of the essence, picking up and recovering and getting things ready for the next onslaught is always on my mind. I recommend to you sincerely that you take a serious look at the provisions that are on the House side of this bill for minute and the cyber protections and the modernization contained within. I'll be available anytime for any comments from this conference committee or the members. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. King, and thank you for your testimony. The next person again is Mr. Mike, and I hope I'm saying this right, Schendel. And then after that is Mr. Hilgert. And Mr. Schendel, welcome to the committee. Thank you for your time. And if you want to introduce yourself to the tape. And on my notes here, it says you had a short drive to get here. So we're going to give you a little more leeway. And because of that, I'll let people ask you questions after your testimony. So because it says you're a 4.5-hour drive to get here. And so while the others are probably going to be able to be here tomorrow and the next day, I'm not assuming you will be. So welcome to the meeting, Mr. Schendel.
Thank you very much, Chair Nelson and Chair Kiffmeyer, and the committee for allowing us some time to speak with you this afternoon. I'm Mike Schendel, Board Chair of the Living at Home Network, a coalition of 32 community-led small nonprofits across Minnesota, which help nearly 10,000 older adults stay living at their homes safely. Our nonprofits are small with minimal staff working alongside community volunteers, providing a big bang for state dollars. We do have serious concerns about the grants to nonprofits language in the Senate Omnibus State Government Bill, specifically the provision that requires a formal audit for nonprofits which receive 50% of their funding from the state. This audit provision disproportionately impacts small budget nonprofits like ours that have followed federal guidelines that do not require audits for organizations with expenses under $750,000. This puts state funding for 8 of our rural programs in danger of being eliminated. With annual budgets of less than $100,000, they will hit the 50% threshold and be ineligible for state grants until they complete 2 years of audits. These programs will likely close before they achieve this goal. Most of these programs are on the western edge of Minnesota, where there are no other services for seniors if these programs do close. I was a pastor for nearly 36 years in Stephen, Minnesota, which is 45 miles north of Crookston, and was a board member and a volunteer driver for the program there, so I know firsthand the importance of such programs for seniors in communities such as this, whether rural or metro. Transportation is a major barrier for seniors in rural communities served by the 8 programs most impacted by this audit provision. These programs are already accountable for their state grants by submitting quarterly financial reports to DHS and have financial audits by DHS each grant period. Audit costs of $4,000 to $8,000 are significant to small budget nonprofits, some with budgets as small as $60,000. As you reconcile the House and Senate state government bills, we ask that nonprofit organizations with budgets under $300,000 be exempt from this audit requirement. Again, I would like to thank you for this opportunity to speak to you on this issue. It is of concern to us because I believe it could be a death knell to some of our programs which do serve a lot of senior citizens in our state. Are there any questions?
Questions, member. Thank you, Mr. Schendel. Are there any questions, members? Again, he's drove down here 4.5 hours, so if you have any questions for him, now would be the time to ask.
Again, thank you.
I see no hands jumping up, and I am not hearing anybody that's there saying good. Thank you again, Mr. Schendel. Next person we have is Matt Hilgert from the Minnesota Association of Counties. Welcome to the committee, and again, state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony. And after that, we have Mr. Jeff Kruger from the Association of Townships. Mr. Hilgert.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, members. My name is Matt Hilgert, and I work for the Association of Minnesota Counties. AMC represents all of Minnesota's 87 counties. And we did submit for your viewing a 5-page letter detailing our thoughts about provisions included in the bills. Today, I will be reviewing 3 issues in particular: cybersecurity, elections, and pensions. And my colleague, later today or tomorrow, Emily Murray, will be reviewing some of the transportation items. First and foremost, on cybersecurity issues, This afternoon, we've already heard ample amounts from testifiers on the threats posed by cybersecurity threats out, not only on a statewide systems, but local systems. In essence, they are real, they are expanding, and they are costly. In addition, counties are very interconnected with state systems. So just to give you a few examples, counties run private property tax information through your PRISM systems and Minnesota Department of Revenue. We have private household income information through a variety of METS and Health and Human Services systems that we operate. And we also have private voter information that we interact with on SVRS. As such, we are extremely supportive of all efforts to increase cybersecurity capabilities, both state and locally, and we appreciate the House's provisions on cybersecurity funds to local governments. I'd also put a note out there that we would ask if this conference committee does decide to expand peacetime emergency declaration powers to include cybersecurity threats, that it not just includes statewide infrastructure. As we mentioned, these threats are to our infrastructure as well, and we believe that we should be treated just as we are with other local government infrastructure like roads, bridges, et cetera, and these powers be expanded for the governor to see fit to declare an emergency based on a local cybersecurity attack. That may be grievous. Secondly, on the election components in both bills, AMC is supportive of the uniformity of mail balloting population thresholds that is included in the House provision. We very much appreciate Senator Kiffmeyer's work on the sample ballot clarification. Right now, there are cases where counties are posting multiple pages in newspapers of sample ballot examples, and they may or not match up with what you see when you actually get to the polls. So we would like to diminish that voter confusion, and we appreciate Senator Kiffmeyer's valiant attempts at trying to do so. We appreciate Representative Greenman's work on her election worker protection pieces that are carried in the House. And we also appreciate both the House and Senate provisions on the disclaimers for non-public information surrounding sample ballot communication. Again, we think this is good governance, good communication, and transparency. Lastly, on the election pieces, we would say that the Senate includes several provisions related to drop boxes and live streaming requirements for ballot boards and drop boxes. These are significant provisions, and we've appreciated the hours that Senator Kiffmeyer has lent to hear our concerns and work through possible solutions. I will say that we still have some lingering questions on these proposals, and if these proposals are moving forward, we'd just like to continue those discussions. The last piece that I have for feedback is on pensions. I would note that it remains unclear if the pensions provisions are moving in this bill or standalone on the floor, but what we would say is proceed with caution. This state is not California or Illinois. We have a well-funded pension system, and that is due, frankly, to three elements. Good stewardship by the fund directors, fantastic investment portfolio by Mansco Perry and now his successors, and frankly, the foresight of this legislature. In 2018, you put together a bipartisan plan to secure our pensions and put us on a pathway towards fully funding status. That has been working. So what we would say is that if you are going to make enhancements to pensions, especially in light of inflation concerns, which are real and legitimate, we would ask that these be fully funded, not just now, but into the future, that there be equity among the plan participants and beneficiaries. Remember, it's not just retirees, but actives. In para, for every retiree, there's 1.5 active members with families, with bills of their own that are also dealing with inflation. So there should be equity among the beneficiaries. And lastly, we'd ask that you respect the current funding ratios and the contribution rates that have been around since the 1950s. We've seen some proposals that do mess with these, and while it might not take effect now, we could be dealing with a pension bill in 2025 or 2030 that all of a sudden put taxpayers disproportionately at risk. Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, thank you very much for the time today.
Thank you, Mr. Hilgert. See no questions jumping up here. The next person we have is Mr. Kruger. Welcome to the committee, and after that we have Mr. Reynoso is next on my list. Welcome to the committee, Mr. Kruger. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Nelson, Chair Kiffmeyer, members of the committee. My name is Jeff Krieger. I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota Association of Townships. My association represents the 1,780 townships in our state, along with the 900,000 plus residents, or about 17% of our state's population. Matt would like to propose inserting language into HF 4293, which would create a legislative work group to negotiate annexation reform, as well as some issues that city advocacy groups have raised with the townships. The reason behind the request is that many townships are experiencing situations where cities are annexing township property without individual property owners' consent and with no evidence of city services or economic development. For the record, we are not opposed to reasonable annexation activities. In some cases, orderly annexation agreements work well between the cities and the townships. However, there have been more than enough local government conflicts where Matt believes it is long overdue for the legislature to correct this legislative action from 1992. In the last 5 years, there have been over 600 annexations. 280 of them were orderly annexations or annexations with agreement with the townships, and 340 have been forced annexations or annexations without township agreement. For background, there have been 2 committee hearings on these issues during this legislative session. First was an informational hearing in Chair Mason's local government committee in the House, followed by an informational hearing in Chair Jasinski's local government committee in the Senate. During the discussion in Chair Mason's committee, there was bipartisan support for Representative Joachim's suggestion to create a legislative work group, similar to last year's salvage title work group. Matt readily supports this proposal and would even be open to several city topics being included in the work group. We know that all 3 associations of the cities oppose the legislative work group as this language is coming in past the committee deadlines. But let me remind you, in 1992, the legislators then allowed for language to be brought into tax conference committee, repealing the right of township residents to vote on whether they want to be annexed. So we ask that the legislature fix a problem that they started by creating a legislative work group to make sure this discussion happens in a timely manner. I ask the committee to please support its conclusion in your bill. Thank you, chairs and committee members.
Thank you, Mr. Krieger. Mr. Reynoso, after this, we have Ms. Annette Meeks. So you're ready. Mr. Reynoso, welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, conferees. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. I think it's going to be one of the easiest decisions you have to make. So I'm here to testify in support of a House provision that designates June 19th of each year as Juneteenth in recognition of the abolition of slavery on June 19th, 1865. This is important because of its historical importance and its long overdue recognition as a state holiday, listed with the other 11. Secondly, state employers need consistency, and I'll give you an example. Our court system provides a day off for state public defenders, also for state prosecutors, but our court staff does not get the day off because it is not listed as an official state holiday, recognized with the other 11. So again, my testimony is easy peasy, I hope, in that you will take this on and include it in the final bill due to its historical significance, and it provides consistency for these departments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reynoso. Again, the next person I have is Ms. Meeks. Are you in person or are you on remote?
I am virtual, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Meeks. Welcome to the committee. Identify yourself for the record and then proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Annette Meeks, and I'm the CEO of the Freedom Foundation of Minnesota. We're a nonprofit research organization that focuses on government transparency, which is why I asked to be with you today. For voters to have faith in our voting process, it's critical our elections are very transparent. That includes knowing who is paying for election operations and where and on what funds are being spent by local election officials. Even seemingly nonpartisan grants can improperly impact elections if those funds are inequitably dispersed and targeted only to counties and cities that support preferred candidates of the private donor offering those grants. This issue sparked national attention immediately following our 2020 presidential election and continues to be a significant issue for election integrity components across the country. As many of you know, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative donated $400 million to fund election activities during the last election. These Zuckerberg funds were provided to the Center for Tech and Civic Life, a left-leaning nonprofit organization run by a former Obama Foundation fellow. These funds were supposedly to help cities and counties buy personal protective equipment to help election officials guard against COVID-19. Instead, much of these funds went largely to get out the vote efforts in selected cities and countries around the country. While getting out the vote efforts are generally fine, having private funds targeted specifically through official channels to areas based on political makeup is not, and that's exactly what happened in the last election. Analysis done by nonpartisan organization revealed large disparities in the way funding was allocated to cities and counties won by then Senator Joe Biden in 2020 and received significantly more funding from the Chan-Zuckerberg Initiative than those counties that were won by then President Trump. Since the public awareness of this private funding, 25 state legislatures have passed legislation banning this process going into future elections. 20 of those bills have already been signed into law. I cannot stress how important this issue is to voters all across this state. We already have that organization that distributed the Chan-Zuckerberg $400 million, asking for new donations to fund similar initiatives for the 2022 midterm election. As a matter of fact, yesterday was the deadline for states and cities to start submitting their applications for that process. I hope Minnesota will join the ranks of the majority of states who declared that we don't want to fund our elections through private donations. We want our federal and our state government to fund our elections. They're not for sale. The other provision I would like to speak in favor of today is a requirement that all legal services of the Attorney General's office be performed by an employee of the Attorney General's office or another state government entity rather than a fellowship paid for by private philanthropy. There have been several questions raised about this issue, and I would like to state this is in no way prevent any of the core functions of the AG's office from being performed, nor is there a legitimate separation of powers argument that can be made regarding this proposal. I would also like to correct the record to say that the Freedom Foundation produces, we are not lobbyists, we are not normally up here testifying. We produce research, and oftentimes people fund our product after the fact, not vice versa. I look back 10 years while I've been waiting to testify. I can find no contribution from the American Petroleum Institute. Our donors don't fund outcomes. Instead, this is a practical solution adopted by other states to avoid any appearance that outside funding is directing the work of a state government worker. In this case, the mere presence of these special assistant attorney generals paid for by the NYU School of Law, which is funded by private grants, gives the appearance that these state special assistant attorney generals be inclined to do the bidding of the person paying his or her salary, in this case, Michael Bloomberg. And who knows what philanthropists will line up next to ante up for their own agenda and offer to fund positions elsewhere in state government. Let me be clear, this isn't about our Attorney General or Michael Bloomberg for that matter. It's about no outside organization should be influencing Minnesota's most important legal entity. And as such, this practice must be banned from all offices in the state of Minnesota. Thank you very much for your time and consideration today.
Thank you, Ms. Meeks. Members, that's the last person I have on my list. I'm going to ask if there's anybody in the audience. I don't see anyone coming up that wants to testify. We're going to have more testimony later on. If not, Chair Kiffmeyer, do you want to just start at this point, hand it over to transportation and let them get started? And I also want to announce that if we don't get through all the testifiers that are listed for transportation, you can forward your names to Mr. Bjorn, Senator Kiffmeyer's committee assistant, and put your name on the list for tomorrow. Senator Kiffmeyer, is that what you think we should hand over to transportation now?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I just want to, for the record, note that Senator Howe did join online to make sure that he's recorded as attending this conference committee report. And then also I had staff take a look. We had a testifier who spoke to under $100,000. I think it was Mr. Schendel. That was $100,000. In the language you have here, you probably just didn't catch the amendment on the Senate floor that was changed to $500,000. I think you had requested $3, and so it is in the bill already at $500,000. And the 990s applies to all getting more than 50% from the state. So those are your 990s, which you do anyway. I just wanted to be sure we got that information there. Thank you, Mr. Schendel. And with that, I will hand the gavel over to Chair Hornstein.
Chair Newman, and I'll hand the gavel just a second over to Chair Hornstein, and I'll be welcoming Senator Howe to the committee. And I'm sorry about the loss you had last week. Our hearts go out to you and your family. Representative Hornstein.
Thank you.
Take it over, transportation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair and members, and we will proceed similarly to how we did with state government. We'll do a walkthrough from our nonpartisan staff, both fiscal and policy from both the House and the Senate, and then we will proceed with public testimony. We're going to start with the public testimony from agencies that have we have jurisdiction over in the Transportation Committee. So with that, I'd like to start with Andy Lee and Krista Boyd, House and Senate fiscal staff respectively, and you can testify from whatever location you would like to testify from. Welcome to the committee, and please state your names for the record, and we'll proceed with the side-by-side and the spreadsheets.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Andrew Lee from House Fiscal Staff, and I think my colleague in the Senate, Chris Boyd, will start with the spreadsheet.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I'm going to actually start with a document I believe you have in your packets that's labeled Federal Funds IIJA Match, GovHouse Senate. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I was a little bit behind. I'm just trying to get logged into Zoom so that I can be on the screen for people. Okay, if you have this one pager labeled Federal Funds Match, Mr. Lee and I thought it would be easier to walk through all of the federal match funding in one document rather than go through the spreadsheet. The governor, the House, and the Senate have done this in very different ways, and it comes across a bit confusing if you look at it in the main spreadsheet. So I'm just going to give a quick, hopefully, overview of this. The governor's proposal for the match funding has it where there is a one-time, or not a one-time, but a transfer from the general fund every year into the Highway User Tax Distribution Fund, and then this is used as pass-through funding to, I'm sorry, I'm having Zoom issues. There we go. And this is used to fund matches for state and local road programs. In addition, there is some direct general fund appropriation done by the governor to fund multimodal portions of the match funding. The Senate has done something very similar, albeit in slightly different amounts, and there are some restrictions on some of that funding. The House has done it in a completely different way. For one, there is no transfer from general fund to HUTDF. It is all through direct funding, and in some cases there are no tails amounts. It is only one-time funding in fiscal years 22 and 23, I believe. I don't intend to go through every line of this. If there are questions, I can answer it, but in the interest of time, I just wanted to give that brief overview. And then turning to the spreadsheet, I believe Mr. Lee will start on that with the Department of Transportation items.
Sure. So looking now at the transportation tracking spreadsheet, that is the legal spreadsheet. That's 9 pages long. I'll highlight the House and Senate items that. Thank you. So the first one is on line 11, utility aircraft replacement. That's on the House side. And then on line 14 on the Senate side is a Civil Air Patrol hangar. Both the items are one time only. And as Ms. Boyd mentioned, I'll be skipping over the IIJA items because they're perhaps clearer to see on that one-page handout. The next item is on the House side, on line 21, is a $12.5 million and $12.3 million in the tails appropriation for active transportation. Then under passenger rail, On the House side, there are two items. One is for operating costs for a second daily train to Chicago, and then also a item on the House side for the Northern Lights Express from Minneapolis to Duluth in both fiscal 23 and in the tails. On the Senate side, there is a reduction of $500,000 a year to the passenger rail office. Then the next line on Safe Routes to School, the House has $1.859 million one time, and the Senate has $750 in fiscal 23 and $13 million in the tails. Under Freight, the House has two items. One is a one-time grant for the Minnesota Rail Service Improvement Grants, and also a governor's recommendation. This is showing the statutory change of redirecting fines for rail grade crossing safety. You see it doesn't add to the totals because it is not appropriated, but is rather just showing a statutory change. Then on the next page, for state roads operation and maintenance, you'll see a few, on this page you'll see a few IIJA items. I'll just be highlighting the ones that aren't IIJA related. The first is on the House side, living snow fences on line 54, and then a Highways for Habitat program on 55. Those are House-only provisions. Then on state road construction, the Senate has an increase to the base on line 71, and then all the governor, the House, and the Senate have spending of federal funds. This is recognition and spending of the federal dollars that are anticipated to come towards the state. And then you see on line 7, that's on line 72, and then on line 73 is the matching funds. And then also there's a further living snow fence appropriation on the House side on line 74. Then on the Senate side on line 79 is a increase in fiscal 23 and in the tails for the Corridors of Commerce program. You'll see two different debt service increases on the House side at $1.511 million in 23 and $17.8 million in the tails for trunk highway bonds, and then on the Senate side, $20.8 million in the tails. So there's slightly different timing between the House and the Senate on those bonds. Then on line 90, there's a $2 million House-only appropriation for the armor radio tower equipment replacement in the general fund. Moving on to local roads on the Senate side, on line 97 is the county state aid highway piece of the auto parts transfer from the general fund to the this is showing the HUTD change. And then also on the Senate side is auto parts related dedication for town roads, and that's on lines 97 and 98. Also on the Senate side is a EV surcharge increase, and that's on line 99. And then on the House side, there's a one-time township road appropriation on line 102 from the general fund. Similar to county state aid highways, for the Senate side, auto parts dedication on line 107 and on 108, EV surcharge increase. And then the next two items are IIJA increases or changes for both the House and the Senate. Then moving on to small cities assistance, the House has a $10 million a year appropriation starting in fiscal 2023 and continuing in the tails on line 115, and the Senate has a statutory auto parts related dedication for small cities, and that's on line 116. Under agency management, you can see an IIJA item on the House side, and then on line 130 under buildings, there's a House-only provision of $2.2 million for the Hutchinson Area Transportation Services Facility. Then there's a number of IIJA-related provisions on the House side on lines 141 through 143, and a House provision on climate-related programs on line 144. Then moving on to the Metropolitan Council, There's a number of house-only items. The first is zero bus emissions in both fiscal '23 and in the tails of $5 million a year on line 157. Then $20 million for IIJA-related operating increase and match on line 159. On line 160, $75,000 for transit signal priorities. A increase of $500,000 in fiscal '23 and each year in the tails for arterial bus rapid transit planning on line 161. Then $2 million one time for transit shelter replacement, 1.3 for micro transit service, and 2.305 for transit fare temporary reduction on the House side. And on the Senate side, there is a $10 million reduction a year starting in fiscal 2023. And I will hand it over to Ms. Boyd for DPS.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll move on to starting on lines 176 and 177 under public safety. These are house-only provisions related to 176 survivor benefits for first responders, expanding the eligibility for those, and this is a general fund increase related to that. On line 177 is ongoing increases for soft body armor reimbursements from the general fund. On the next page, on line 184 is ongoing increases for commercial vehicle enforcement from the Trunk Highway Fund. That's on the House-only side. Senate-only provisions are on lines 185 and 186. There is a one-time general fund appropriation for replacement of aircraft at the State Patrol, and then ongoing appropriations from the Trunk Highway Fund for maintenance and other costs related to the aircraft. Under driver and vehicle services, there's a number of provisions on both House and Senate sides. Starting on line 195, this is a House-only provision for increasing data auditing capacity. If Mr. Lee will correct me, I believe this is related to staff costs. This is from the Special Revenue Fund for Driver Services. On line 196, this is a House-only provision. Let me group these together. Lines 196 through 198 have to do with the installation of security cameras, both at DVS offices and at Deputy Registrar and Driver's License Agent offices. These are on both the House and Senate side, but in different amounts from the Special Revenue Fund. And then on line 196, there is an ongoing cost related to these security cameras that is a House-only provision, and that is also from Special Revenue. On line 199, that is a Senate-only provision related, 199 and 200 are oversight costs related to respectively third-party CDL testing and online driver's ed, and those are both from the Special Revenue Fund. Those are ongoing staff costs. On line 201 is a Senate-only provision, one-time $45,000 appropriation from the Special Revenue Fund related to expanding eligibility for veterans designation on driver's licenses. Lines 202 through 204 are House-only provisions. 202 is a reimbursement, one-time reimbursement amount available for equipment necessary to move from being a limited license agent to a full-service provider. Line 203 is vendor costs related to the reintegration driver's license card, which I believe Mr. Lee will explain further in a moment. Line 204 is one-time cost for watercraft operators permit indicator on driver's licenses, costs related to that. Those are all from the Special Revenue Fund. Moving on to vehicle services, there is a analogous provision under vehicle services for increasing data auditing capacity under the House, that's a House-only provision on line 209. These are all special revenue items. Lines 210 and 211 are also House-only. One is for a deficiency amount in 2022 for the costs of mailing and production of license plates of the department. Line 211 is costs of an appeals process related to revocation of access to MinDrive. And let's see, on lines 212 through 212 and 213 are Senate-only items. On 213, you'll see there's a statutory item, and that is in the language later, in the policy language, there is an appropriation, a statutory appropriation to the department per each mail and online vehicle renewal transaction. And the fiscal note for that, you'll see the amounts estimated on line 213. And then on line 212, there is a reduction of the direct appropriation to the department in the same amount. On line 214, this is a House and Senate item. This is a distribution from the newly created full service providers account. Certain revenues will flow into that, which I'm sure we'll talk about more soon. And this is a statutory appropriation to those providers, driver's license agents and deputy registrars. The amounts are different. The House and Senate have different provisions about what amounts flow into that account and about, I think there are differences in effective dates as well. Under traffic safety, starting on line 220, that's a House-only provision from the general fund and ongoing amount for expanding public outreach, media, and education. Lines 221 and 222 are Senate only. These 221 is an increase in the amounts for school bus camera grants to school districts and school bus companies from the general fund. Those are increases in 23 and 24. Line 222 is a one-time appropriation for the costs of making changes to the min crash system to allow deputy registrars to access those records. On the next page, under MnDOT Other Projects, starting on line 232, these are all Senate-only provisions. These are specific projects named in the appropriations at the end of the appropriations article in the bill. I'm not going to go through every line and details of those projects. I'll just note that most of them are trunk highway funded projects. Two exceptions on line 246. There's a freight rail car storage facility that is funded from the Rail Service Improvement Account in Special Revenue Fund. And then line 247 is a noise barrier in Oakdale that is a general fund project. On line 253, this is a new statutory appropriation to the Office of the Legislative Auditor related to the data security account. That's an existing account for which there is no appropriation tied to it. This would create a statutory appropriation from that account to the Legislative Auditor for the purpose of oversight relating to state data security. Moving on to page 7 of the spreadsheet, we move into the revenue items. Do you want to skip this for now? Okay. I'm going to move to the revenue items starting on line 286. These two items on 286 and 287 are a House-only provision. This has to do with the disposition of funds from State Patrol traffic fines. Under this, the first $1 million, under current law, the first $1 million of those amounts goes to the rail grade crossing safety account, the remainder to trunk highway fund. This would increase the amount for rail grade crossing to $2.5 million. So you'll see an increase to special revenue of $1.5 million and a decrease to the trunk highway fund from that provision. Starting on line 288 through 291, this is the distribution of revenues related to the auto part sales tax dedication changes in the Senate only. This would go to 100% dedication of auto part sales taxes to transportation purposes. So there's a decrease to the amount that currently goes to the general fund on line 288. And then on the following lines, you'll see where those revenues will now go. HUTDF, the town roads account in the county state aid highway fund, and the small cities account, or small cities assistance account and special revenue. Line 292 is a Senate-only provision related to the increase in electric vehicle surcharges that are paid when tabs are renewed on electric vehicles. This is an increase in the all-electric vehicle surcharge from $75 to $229 a year, and then creates new surcharges for plug-in hybrid electric vehicles and also electric motorcycles, and that revenue all goes to the Highway User Tax Fund. Yikes. On page 8, under Senate, the Senate-only side, there are a number of small revenues related to new special plates created in the bill, the Air Medal Special Veterans Plates, the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relative Special Plates, and Minnesota Pro Sports Team Foundation Plates. You'll see a slightly larger expectation of revenue from the Vikings Foundation Special Plates because there was actually a market survey done on those plates, and those are estimated to issue about 10,000 a year, I believe. The next section of items are all related to DVS, under DPS, and some of them are both House and Senate, as on 300 and 301. This is loss of revenue to operating accounts at DVS related to allowing deputy registrars and driver's license agents to provide certain driver, vehicle, and crash records. So those fees would now be retained by the DRs and not by the department. So there's a loss of revenue there. On lines 302 and 303, this is a Senate-only provision. It's a new $5 surcharge on any vehicle renewal transactions that are conducted by mail. So, and that revenue is split between the vehicle services account and the new full service provider account for deputy registrars and DLAs. On lines 304 through 306, those are related to distribution of some of the filing fee revenue that currently goes to the department for online and mail transactions. Some of that revenue will now go to the full service providers account. So there would be a loss to the vehicle services operating account and the DVS tech account. This is on both House and Senate side. I believe the only difference is an effective date in fiscal year 2023. So those amounts are different in that year. On line 307, there's a new filing fee increase in the bill for all driver transactions, and this goes to the driver services operating account. It's present in both the House and Senate side, but the filing fee increase is different in both sides. Line 308 is cost related to a slight loss of revenue related to waiving exam requirements for certain out-of-state driver's licenses coming into Minnesota and applying for a Minnesota driver's license, and that's on both the House and Senate side. Line 309 is an increase related to the fees for retesting related to skills and knowledge testing in the department. And this is an increase of $10 for each retest, and this is on the Senate-only side. On line 310, this is a slight loss of revenue to the driver services operating account relating to losing some retest abilities in third-party CDL testing because third-party testers would be doing those exams. The next section, I'm going to defer to Mr. Lee to explain the revenue changes related to the reintegration driver's license.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. The next few items show the estimated costs from a fiscal note related to policy language and also transfers in the House side relating to a reintegration driver's license. So this is a license that a number of people who are eligible for coming out of prison would receive in lieu of another license, and fiscal note had an estimate for the number of various funds that would, according to the fiscal note, have less fee revenue as a result. So the negatives that you're seeing on lines 312 through 318, because those fees are divided up to a number of different items or a number of different pots, would have the fee loss. And in when we go into provisions in the appropriations article, I'll point out the transfers from the vehicle services operating account to make up for those fee losses in fiscal 23 through 24. So you can see from the vehicle services operating account to the various funds on lines 319 through 323. So that is those provisions from 312 through 323 relating to the reintegration license. And with that, I'll hand it back over to Ms. Boyd.
Mr. Chair, I believe we're almost done. Starting on line 326, this is both on the governor and the Senate side, but not the House. This is a summary of changes related to revenue changes to the Highway User Tax Distribution Fund. As you know, that's a pass-through fund, so it affects revenues into Trunk Highway and CASA and municipal state aid. And that's the summary there. And then on the next page, on line 353, I'm just going to point out that this is the net impact to the general fund. On both the House and Senate side, you'll see in 22 and 23, increased spending, net spending of $224.8 million on the House side and $499.3 million on the Senate side. And then very briefly in the notes, trunk highway bonds are not reflected in the spreadsheet, so we did just a brief footnote to reflect that there is trunk highway bonding in both the House and Senate bills. The Senate has a number of named projects, and it totals $299.6 million in both fiscal year 24 and 25 from trunk highway bonds. And in the House, you'll see that there are two items, $80 million for high priority bridges and $69 million for facilities capital improvement program at MnDOT, and those are both in fiscal year 23. And Mr. Chair, there are just some few, I believe Mr. Lee and I both had some items in the appropriations article that are not reflected in the spreadsheet that we wanted to point out, if you would like us to do that at this time.
Yeah, if you could do that, that'd be
Okay. And I'll start, if you don't mind. I'm going to be working off the side-by-side language, and this is Article 11 on the House side and Article 2 on the Senate side, Transportation and Public Safety Appropriations. And I'm going to start on page R17. On the Senate side, there is some language related to multimodal grant programs through the federal funds, IIJA money. Just briefly list some limitations on allowable federal grants for this match funding. You'll see those start on line 30.12 on the Senate side. And then later in that language, there's starting on 30.21, you'll see the language, this appropriation must not be used as match funding for guideway projects. It puts a limitation on the match funding there. And then also requires a report to the legislature whenever an application is submitted for any discretionary grant funding, that the legislature should be notified. The next is on, I'm sorry, I don't have my list. I believe it's on R30 is the next thing I'd like to point out. R30 is just, I just wanted to point out where the earmarked projects start on line 22.14 that you can peruse at your leisure. That's starting with the Coon Rapids Trunk Highway 610. And then the next item is on page R34. These are also IIJA related. On line 31.1 near the bottom of that page on the Senate side, these are requirements related to any electric vehicle infrastructure program funding through the IIJA money. Subdivision 1 states that any match funding can be committed only from non-state sources for this federal funding. On the next page, Subdivision 2 states that none of the federal funds may be spent for projects located on public land. Subdivision 3 requires a regional balance throughout the state as much as allowable for these projects. And Subdivision 4 has to do with alternative fuel corridors. That's a federal designation. And requires the commissioner to have the FHWA certify that all the alternative fuel corridors in Minnesota are fully built out by November in 2023. The next section right there on 31.15 has to do with federal funds reporting related to IIJA. The first subdivision says that any plan submitted that's required to IIJA that's submitted to the feds also has to be provided to the legislature. The second subdivision requires a report twice a year on the use of the federal funds through the IIJA. And then at the bottom of that page, there is a prohibition on the Reconnect Rondo project. There's a definition of the project, and at the beginning of the next page states that the Commissioner of Transportation and the Metropolitan Council must not expend any money for study, planning, engineering, design, or construction of this project, and this includes making grants to other entities, any federal money, and any previous appropriations. The next section, Section 7, is a limit on the use of match funding for the IIJA money that must not be spent unless it's by specific direct appropriation for this purpose. And the next section says that no federal funds for IIJA must be expended unless it's by direct appropriation by law. Mr. Lee.
Mr. Chair and members, going over the a few House positions in the appropriations article. The first one is on the side-by-side document on our page R26 on the House side. starting on line 168.4. This is similar to a Senate appropriation for min crash access for the deputy registrars. It appears on the spreadsheet on line 222. The Senate does a direct appropriation. The House does essentially allows the statutorily appropriated technology account of the Special Revenue Fund for DPS to fund this programming expense. Then the next House item on the appropriations article is,
Can you be a part of this?
find it here. On R29, starting on R28 and R29, this is amending session law from last year. You can see the effective language on the top of page R29, changing or adding up to and on line 169.9 and are available on line 169.10. That is modifying the capital security appropriation to the enacted budget last year. Then I will note, starting on R29 on line 170.8 on the House side, you can see the transfers that I mentioned earlier relating to the foregone revenue because of the reinstatement fee and the for the reintegration license. And I should also note, if you are looking through the appropriations language, there's some difference in construction. In parts of it, the numbers between the House and the Senate might look a little bit different because the Senate largely amends session law from last year, and the House has new session law. And I think that that covers everything that we have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lee, are there any questions of Mr. Lee or Ms. Boyd at this time from committee members? Okay, well, at this point, we're going to proceed with testimony on the policy provisions. And we have Mr. Burris and Ms. Stengel, and I think we're going to start with Ms. Stengel on this section.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Mr. Burris and I will be using the comparison summary instead of the side-by-side language and sort of talking at a higher level, big picture overview to move things along, but we're happy to answer questions or go over specific provisions. And we'll start on page 3 of the comparison summary with House Article 13, which compares with Senate Articles 7, 10, and 11. The first provision in this section is a Senate-only section, and it appropriates money in the data security account, which is in the Special Revenue Fund, and it appropriates it to the legislative auditor to oversee security of data and data stored and transmitted.
And Mr. Chair, members, Matt Burris with House Research. The next section is House only, and this is in Article 13. Actually, all of the House provisions are Article 13. There's a mixture of articles for the Senate provisions. House sections 1 through 5 modify the, establish a Traffic Safety Advisory Council, and that is a series of sections. The provision sets up the membership, identifies some administrative provisions, requires legislative reporting. House only section 6 is the next provision, and this establishes explicit authority for the establishment of electric vehicle charging stations in rest areas on controlled access highways. Next is sections 7 and 61, these are also House-only provisions, and establish a Highways for Habitat program. This had a direct appropriation that was covered earlier in the walkthrough. There's also a legislative report that's required. That's the later section. Next is House Section 8, and this is also House only. And this would designate a new state bicycle route as the North Star Bikeway.
Mr. Chair and members, turning to the top of page 4, there's a Senate-only provision about micromobility facilities, which allows cities to put these kinds of facilities in the right-of-way of public highways if they have the approval of the road authority and meet some other requirements as well. The next is a topic that is included in both the Senate bill and the House bill, but there are policy differences in how it's approached. And the issue relates to Quarters of Commerce program, how projects are identified and selected. Next is a Senate-only provision about, it is what we frequently call the AG report, and that's the report the Attorney General and MMB does after the biennial budget every year, looking at proposed funds out of the trunk highway or HUTDF. The next has to do with a turnback relating to trunk highway 67, and there are 2 provisions here, and there are some technical differences. And then I'll turn it back to Mr. Burris.
Mr. Chair and members, the next provision is House only, Section 15. This would establish a new memorial highway, the John Schlegel Memorial Highway on a stretch of US Highway 71. There's also another House-only provision, Section 16, that similarly sets up a memorial highway. This would be the Prince Rogers Nelson Memorial Highway on a segment of Trunk Highway 5. Section 17 is a House-only provision as well, and this would authorize the Department of Transportation to provide an employment preference for some construction projects located near tribal lands. And then House Sections 18 and 19, Senate Sections 10 and 12 are identical between the House and Senate, and this makes modifications for the calculations that are used for municipal state aid and county state aid determinations of money needs.
The next section is Article 10, Section 11. It's a Senate-only provision that requires the city to remove a street from its municipal state aid street system if the number of lanes on that street is reduced to 1 lane in each direction.
And then House only, Section 20 is the next provision, and this makes a modification to a screening board that's involved in the calculation of aid for municipal state aid street. Makes some modifications around the submission of data as well as adding to who serves on that screening board.
The next set of sections are from Senate Article 7, and there's various sections here that relate with electric vehicle surcharges, and that increases the existing surcharge for all electric vehicles and then imposes a new surcharge for plug-in hybrid vehicles, plug-in hybrid motorcycles, and all electric motorcycles. Going to the top of page 5, there's another Senate-only section. In Article 7, Section 6, this establishes the air medal special plates for certain veterans who have received that medal. Next is a similar section. It's House Section 21, Senate Section 7, and this has to do with veterans service group special plates, which allows the DAV to have these plates, and there's a technical difference between those two. The next one is another similar section, House Section 22, Senate Section 8, and this eliminates the fee to obtain a Gold Star special license plate. Next is a Senate-only provision, Senate Section 9. This is the Minnesota Viking Foundation plates. Section 10 is the Minnesota Professional Sports Team Foundation plates. Section 11 is the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relative Special plates. Those are all Senate-only. The next is a similar section, House Section 23, Senate Section 12. And there are some policy differences and some technical differences here, and this has to do with DPS denying an application for a vehicle dealer's license if certain requirements are not met. Next is a Senate-only provision, Section 13, and this is increasing the documentary fee charged by a motor vehicle dealer. The next is similar, and it is House Section 24, Senate Section 14. There's a technical difference here, and this has to do with motor vehicle dealer inspections needing to be available for inspection at identified hours. At the very bottom of the page, Senate Section 15 is a Senate-only section, and this has to do with towing motor vehicles and what can be subject to a lien and those sorts of things. The top of page 6, another Senate-only provisions, sections 13 through 15. And this annually makes statutory appropriations out of the, statutorily appropriates the money in the Small Cities Assistance Account to MnDOT to be allocated to small cities under the existing formula.
And then, Mr. Chair, members, House Sections 25 to 29 relate to towed motor vehicles and retrieval contents, and makes a number of changes regarding documentation requirements, signage posting, providing for notices, and also explicitly authorizing civil suits.
The next two sections are Senate-only sections. Section 7 requires MnDOT electronic signs to say slower traffic move right as a default message. And then the Senate Section 10 requires MnDOT to designate the speed limit on I-35E in St. Paul at 55 miles an hour.
Next is House Section 30, which authorizes Ramsey County to set alternative speed limits on specified types of roadways under its jurisdiction. Next is House Section 31, which modifies the clearance requirements when motor vehicles are passing bicycles and makes some technical changes. House Section 32 is, this is House only along with the prior two, by the way. House Section 32 makes some modifications to riding rules for bicycles. House Sections 33 and 44 authorize the use of school buses in emergency response and disaster situations, and lays out the requirements and conditions around when the school bus can be used. Another House-only provision is in Section 34. This would modify a existing special forest products permit to create a new type that allows for transport of forest products that are both over width as well as overweight. This is raw and unfinished forest products.
Another Senate-only provision are Senate Sections 16 and 26, paragraph A, having to do with tow truck weight limits. This consolidates various provisions into a single statute and allows MnDOT to issue oversized overweight permits for a tow truck towing other disabled or damaged vehicles. Next is a Senate-only provision, Section 17, and that allows trucks hauling grass seed to qualify for a special farm permit.
And then House-only Section 35 relates to special series plates, also known as whiskey plates. It would eliminate the requirements that a person seeking the plates has to identify someone who has a driver's license in order to get the plates.
Next are two Senate-only sections, 20 and 24, and this authorizes online driver education.
And then House-only Section 36 broadens the list of documents that someone can provide when seeking applying for a Real ID compliant license or identification card, so that somebody could provide a internet bill to show residency as one of their documents.
Next is Senate-only Section 21, and this allows additional veterans to get a veteran designation on the driver's license. And then there are some additional Senate-only sections that authorize third-party CDL testing.
Section 37 is House only. This is the reintegration driver's license provision that had been discussed earlier. House only Section 38 makes a modification of the ignition interlock program regarding situations when somebody has to provide proof of non-cancelable insurance. Also, House only is Section 39. This establishes a federal funds local assistance program. This was one of the items covered in the spreadsheet walkthrough with a direct appropriation. This would direct MnDOT to create a program that provides grants that serve as match for federal discretionary funds. And then House Section 40 directs MnDOT to provide technical assistance for local units of government to pursue federal discretionary transportation grants.
Next up is Senate Section 18. It's a Senate-only provision that amends the pavement life cycle cost analysis requirements. The next section, House Section 41 and Senate Section 19 are identical, and this adds a town board member to the LRIP Advisory Committee.
And then House Section 42 is House only, and this would set some requirements for pipeline owners and operators to provide regular reporting. House Section 43 is also House only, and this provides explicit additional uses of funds in the grade crossing safety account.
The next provision is a Senate-only provision. This is Section 20, and this is the auto part sales tax redesignation that takes 100% of the auto part sales tax and allocates it to the HUTDF, to small cities, and to town roads. Next is a Senate-only provision coming from Article 11, Section 1, and this requires certain metro area counties to report on the use of transportation sales tax as it relates to guideways.
And then House only, Section 45 modifies a Department of Public Safety program for public safety officer death benefits, broadens eligibility for the benefits. And then House Section 46 is the language of the reallocation that had been mentioned earlier on revenue regarding state patrol citations, so that additional funds would go into the grade crossing safety account. After that, House only Sections 47 and 48 modify the maximum penalties for some pipeline safety regulation and reporting violations to use reference to maximums that are set in federal law. House Sections 49 and 50, and then Senate Sections 21 and 22 are similar with a policy difference, and this modifies requirements around insurance and some technical changes for the registration for small unmanned aircraft systems. And then House Section 51, Senate Section 2 direct the Metropolitan Council to provide bus operator training on accessibility.
Mr. Chair and members, on the top of page 9, Senate Section 3 is the Senate-only provision, and this requires the Met Council to regularly post certain statistics on their website relating to ridership and crime. Next is a Senate-only provision, Section 4, and this prohibits the Met Council from issuing certificates of participation for guideways. Sections 5 and 6 are Senate-only, and this requires, it amends who can be a responsible authority for light rail, and either allows or requires the governor to appoint a county board as the responsible authority depending on the situation.
And then House Sections 52 through 55 would authorize the Metropolitan Council to implement a program to impose administrative citations, which would be for non-payment of transit fare and imposed instead of the current criminal penalty. There's also a legislative reporting requirement established.
Next is Senate-only Section 7, and this requires municipal approval of guideways. Senate-only are Sections 8 and 13 that requires a cost-benefit analysis for guideways. Senate-only Section 9 requires counties where the guideway is located to be responsible for all costs of that guideway. Senate Section 25 is Senate-only, and this removes a requirement for the Driver and Vehicle Systems Oversight Committee to submit a final report to the legislature and the OLA. Sections 26 and 27 are Senate-only, and this extends the school bus age exemption that was enacted last year by an additional year. Senate Section 10 is Senate-only and amends the funding source for the post-COVID pandemic study on public transportation. Next is a turnback for Trunk Highway 301, and that's House 57 and Senate 24, and that's an identical section.
And then House only Section 58 would give direction to the Metropolitan Council to set up a working group that would look at transit signal priority systems. And then House only Section 59 directs MnDOT and the Department of Public Safety to develop an implementation plan to perform a pilot program to use speed safety cameras. Also House only is Section 60, which would establish a road usage charge task force to develop recommendations around a mileage-based or similar road usage-based charge for motor vehicles.
Next are some additional Senate-only provisions. Section 11 and 12 relate to the Cedar Isles condos and require the properties there to be reassessed for tax value and requires the Met Council to provide compensation to the condo owners. Section 15 is a Senate-only provision, and this requires the suspension of guideways activities until Southwest Light Rail is in revenue operations. Senate Section 14 is Senate-only and requires MnDOT and the Met Council to ask the federal government for permission to terminate North Star. Section 25 is Senate-only, and this prohibits spending any money on the Northern Lights Express project. Senate Section 16 is Senate-only, and this requires the MMB to do a study about ways to appoint people to the Metropolitan Council. And then House Section 62 and Senate Section 24, paragraph B are similar. There's a formatting difference, and this eliminates a rule that requires transit operators receiving aid from MnDOT to provide certain types of reports.
And then, Mr. Chair and members, there's a separate side-by-side document, but we'll continue with the summary. This is Article 14, Senate Article 8. These are independent expert review provisions, the title of the article, and the context of this is coming out of a series of recommendations that followed from legislation directing an independent expert review that had been enacted by the legislature last year. The first of these is a House series of sections that, as well as a Senate series of sections that authorize deputy registrars and driver's license agents to provide copies of various types of records and crash reports. One thing of note in the summary is that there are a couple of definitions, and those sections are identified in multiple rows because the definition, the term, is used with a couple of these provisions. There are some differences between the House and Senate, as well as technical differences between House and Senate on this. The next provision relates to reallocation of a portion of filing fee revenue that comes out of both mailed and online transactions, so that some of the filing fee revenue would go to full service providers, which were the driver's license agents and deputy registrars, those who are appointed under both. There are policy differences between House and Senate on that provision as well. The next provision is Senate provision, Senate only, that establishes a $5 surcharge on mailed vehicle registration renewals. Next is House Section 6, Senate Section 28, authorizing release of information to vehicle owners and lessees, and there's a difference in approach between House and Senate on this. The next provision is a series of sections that are Senate only and would lengthen the period of issuance of various driver's licenses, operator permits, and identification cards. And generally it's going from a 4-year cycle to an 8-year cycle, and there's some fee adjustments that go along with that. And then the next provision is House Section 10, Senate Section 13, which would direct the Department of Public Safety to set up an online pre-application process for driver's license applications. There's some policy as well as technical differences between the House and Senate on those.
Mr. Chair, members, I'll pick up on the remainder of the article. The top of page 12, there are some changes to license and ID filing fees, and there's a policy difference on the amounts between the House and Senate. Next has to do with publishing certain materials like the driver's manual and study materials on the department website, and there are some technical differences. That's House 12 and Senate 16. The next is another similar House Section 13 and Senate Section 18, and this has to do with auditing, with accessing data in the MnDrive system and what happens if data is improperly accessed. Next is a Senate-only provision. It's in Section 19, paragraph C, and this has to do with exam station locations and requirements. The next is a similar House Section 14 and part of Senate Section 19, and this has to do with providing real-time information on the website about availability for exam stations, when and where they're available. The next, House 15 and Senate 20 is identical, and this has to do with out-of-state license holders not needing to take the written test when they move to Minnesota. Senate Section 21 is Senate only. This increases the repeat exam fees for both the written and road test. Senate Section 24 is Senate only, and this requires DPS to publicly post pass rates for each driver training school. Senate Section 25 is a Senate only section, and statutorily appropriates some of the vehicle revenue services administrative costs. Next one is a House-only provision that requires a legislative report on moving to digital driver's licenses and other digital documents. Senate Section 27 is Senate only, and this requires DPS to, it encourages them to implement various recommendations from the report and requires them to report back to the legislature on a variety of items. And then finally, there's an identical effective date of August 1, 2022. And Mr. Chair and members, the next is a salvage and prior salvage title brands. This was heard on the Senate floor today and the House floor previously. So just sort of generally, this revises some of the laws relating to salvage title and creates a new prior salvage title brand to ensure that all vehicles with damage are branded to some degree. So I think we can sort of leave it at that for that article and answer questions if there are any.
Well, members, thank you very much to Ms. Sengel and Mr. Burris for that walkthrough, and that concludes the walkthrough. I want to see if any members have any questions of our staff, and then we'll get right into the public testimony. Questions from members? Anyone online? Okay. Well, then what we'll do here is we'll start with our public testimony, first with agencies and then some of the members of the public that have signed up. We are going to go, just a reminder, we are required to end by 4. So we will end by 4. I hope we can get all the public testimony in by then. If not, we will contact others who have signed up, and we will hear from you at a future date. But our priority now is going to be hear from the agencies first. And so I'd like to call on Ms. Nancy Daubenberger, the Interim Commissioner of MnDOT. Ms. Daubenberger here or joining us online?
Online.
Okay. Ms. Daubenberger, welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the Conference Committee. I am Nancy Daubenberger, the Interim Commissioner for the Minnesota Department of Transportation. I regret I'm unable to join you in person today. Thank you for the opportunity to share MnDOT's perspective on the transportation provisions of House File 4293 and Senate File 3975. We sent you a letter last week that expresses these perspectives. And to be concise, I'll mention only some of the highlights from this letter, but request you please review all that is noted in our letter. Regarding House File 4293 transportation provisions, we appreciate the House's inclusion of several items from the governor's policy and budget proposals. And I won't go through and list all of these at this point, but I will mention we are very pleased to see the inclusion of policy changes to the Quarters of Commerce program, which provide clarification on how the program is to be administered. Delaying the solicitation date to February 1st of 2023 is also appreciated, as it will provide the agency time to successfully implement the proposed changes. The bill includes state matching funds to leverage federal funds provided by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. These funds will support the installation of electric vehicle charging infrastructure, county state aid highways, municipal state aid streets, multimodal transportation, and maximize federal transportation funding to combat climate change. The bill also includes additional program planning and delivery and agency services funding as recommended by the governor to help deliver and manage the significant increase in federal funds from IIJA. Unfortunately, the governor's proposal to use new ongoing trunk highway funding transferred from the state general fund is not included in the bill. Additional matching funds for state road construction and additional funds for operations and maintenance are included, but only funded for the current biennium and from the existing trunk highway fund balance. The bill does not include the governor's budget request for operating pressures to help offset increasing costs across the agency. While we recognize the intent of our state agency assisting with federal grant applications related to IIJA, we have suggestions on how to implement the federal funds local assistance program, and we're working with the author and stakeholders on language to help ensure successful implementation of the proposed program. Regarding Senate File 3975 transportation provisions, we appreciate the Senate's inclusion of several items from our governor's policy and budget proposals, including those related to drones, turnbacks, state aid needs calculations, reporting requirements for transit grant recipients, and funding for small cities. And we are also pleased to see the inclusion of policy changes to the Corridors of Commerce program, which provide clarification on how the program is to be administered. However, the significant trunk highway fund-based increase for Corridors of Commerce reduces resources available for other MnDOT projects. Instead, any base funding increase for the program should come from the general fund. Additionally, the bill eliminates any involvement of the Metropolitan Council in selecting metro area projects. The Met Council should have a role in screening projects since they are the federally designated metropolitan planning organization for the Twin Cities region. We are pleased that MnDOT's request for operations and maintenance funding is included in the bill, along with a base increase for the Safe Routes to School program. There are several provisions that provide funding to enhance Minnesota's transportation infrastructure, including Trunk Highway Budget Authority to access federal funds provided under the IIJA. While we appreciate the IIJA matching funds for many of the modes, including Greater Minnesota Transit, Aeronautics, and other discretionary funds, there are several restrictions on how those funds can be used. And unfortunately, the Senate's bill prohibits expending federal funds except by direct appropriation. For example, lines 19.14 through 19.25 eliminate the existing process for spending federal funds under the Legislative Advisory Commission and only allow spending IIJ funds by direct appropriation. This prohibition severely restricts MnDOT's ability to quickly access federal funds, which could negatively impact communities across the state. Furthermore, these provisions were not heard prior to their inclusion in the Omnibus bill, thereby minimizing the opportunity for MnDOT and others to provide input into how this change would adversely impact Minnesotans. There are also no corresponding direct appropriations in this bill that would allow us to spend anticipated federal funds, which under the current law are authorized via statutory appropriations. There are other prohibitions that unnecessarily restrict MnDOT's ability to develop statewide transportation funding infrastructure. The Senate's bill does not provide funding for the electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Instead, it places several restrictions on how the federal funds can be used for EV charging. The Senate's bill, as amended on the Senate floor, removes MnDOT's authority to place EV charging stations at rest areas and replaces it with a prohibition on spending IIJA funds for EV charging on any public land. This would prevent MnDOT and local governments from pursuing $2.5 billion available nationally for competitive national electric vehicle infrastructure funding. The significant increase in electric vehicle fees from $75 to $229 might discourage people from purchasing electric vehicles when we should be doing all we can to encourage people to adopt this technology. This legislation does not provide the resources needed to expand the state's electric vehicle charging network. The Senate's bill also prohibits MnDOT from funding the Reconnect Rondo project in St. Paul, even with funds already appropriated by the legislature. This important project seeks to address past injustices from the construction of Interstate 94 and has already been recognized at the federal level as a project that will likely compete well for IIJA grant opportunities. MnDOT is concerned about the provision in the Senate's bill that would raise the speed limit on Interstate 35E from West 7th Street to Interstate 94 in St. Paul to 55 miles per hour. I-35E between West 7th Street and I-94 in St. Paul is a unique 3.7-mile section of the interstate system in Minnesota. It's the only part of the system designated as a parkway. And as a result of a 1984 lawsuit settlement, it carries two stipulations. One is that trucks and commercial vehicles more than 9,000 pounds licensed gross weight, with certain exceptions, are not allowed on the parkway. And the second is the speed limit is set at 45 miles per hour. With a posted speed of 45 miles per hour, the parkway was not designed to accommodate speeds greater than 50 miles per hour. MnDOT is concerned about the language directing additional use of changeable message signs for the purpose of directing slower traffic to move right. Overuse of messaging on these signs can lead drivers to ignoring them, which can cause additional safety issues if alerts are not heeded. MnDOT has limited safety messages to specific days of the week, including messages about slower traffic moving right and not camping in the left lane. Additionally, the metro area has several left entrances and exits and congestion issues which require the use of all lanes. MnDOT has significant concerns about the prohibition on spending any money for study, planning, preliminary engineering, final design, or reconstruction of the Northern Lights Express passenger rail project between Duluth and Minneapolis. Minnesota statutes, sections 174.01, establishes goals of the state transportation system, which include providing multimodal transportation services to increase access for all persons and businesses, encouraging tourism by providing appropriate transportation to Minnesota facilities designated to attract tourists, ensuring that planning and implementation of all modes of transportation are consistent with the environmental and energy goals of the state, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions from the state's transportation sector. Additionally, Minnesota statutes section 174.03, subdivision 1B, provides that the commissioner must develop a comprehensive statewide rail plan that evaluates, scores, and prioritizes future passenger rail capital improvement projects. If MnDOT is unable to study or plan with respect to NLX, it would be nearly impossible to put together the state rail plan.
Ms. Dalbenberger, excuse me, can you wrap up? We do have 2 more agencies and we want to get done by 4, so maybe if you could wrap up in a minute or 2, that would be great, if possible.
Will do. Thank you. The Senate's bill does not include increases for program planning and other delivery or agency services, including operational pressures. These activities are essential to plan, deliver, and manage the additional federal funds coming to Minnesota from the bipartisan infrastructure law. Thank you for the opportunity to share MnDOT's perspective on the transportation provisions of House File 4293, Senate File 3975. We appreciate your consideration and look forward to working with you through the conference committee process.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. We appreciate it, and we will be in contact with you and working with you through the conference committee process. So thank you for your testimony. Our next testifier is Commissioner Harrington from the Department of Public Safety. And he is joining us in person, members. Commissioner Harrington, welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you very much. For the record, my name is John Harrington. I am the Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, and I want to thank you, Chair Hornstein, Chair Newman, and Chair Nelson, and the members of the Conference Committee for allowing me to testify on the transportation portion of the Omnibus bill. I need to start out by highlighting 2 deficiency requests that we still are very concerned about them being funded in the Omnibus bill. The first one is the State Patrol's deficiency request. It's a general fund deficiency. And while I can commit to you that the State Patrol will continue to protect the Capitol and its visitors and all of the state staff here, we are running out of money and will have run out of money in the next month. Which will mean that while we will continue to do the work, we will have to shift our funding from general funds to state trunk highway funds, which the Capitol is not typically funded out of. And so that is a deficiency request that we're very concerned about, and we've voiced it early on. The second deficiency request is our driver and vehicle services deficiency request. Now, this deficiency request started because during COVID, we saw an increase in online requests for plates and the costs that were associated with that essentially tapped out the funds that we had. There is money appropriated, but it is not appropriated out of the, we're not allowed to access it out of the special fund. In order to meet our budget, we have essentially frozen hiring last September. And we are at the point now where within the next few months, we will have to cease production of plates and tabs, and we will have to cease additional services that the Department of Vehicle Services offers. Personal privilege here, I guess I want to really strongly advocate for the inclusion or the expansion of cancer and PTSD as eligible costs for families of first responders who die in the line of duty. The Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety sees every line of duty death application that occurs in the state of Minnesota. I have been to way too many funerals. I have visited with the widows of the Pater family who died, a firefighter who died in the St. Paul Fire Department. I was recently at the Albert Lee funeral for a young fire lieutenant who was running marathons and doing great things in his community, who within a very short period of time was laid low by cancer. I think it is absolutely the right time, and this is the body that can do that. We can expand those benefits so that the widows and the children who are left behind from those people who have given the last full measure of duty, that they are not left out because of a technicality in the legislation. We're also requesting increase in the funding for soft body armor. We've mentioned that that fund is also tapped, and not only is it tapped for the current request, and I can tell you I have a line of chiefs of police that are calling me on a regular basis asking for when they're going to get their reimbursement, but I've also now have firefighters and EMS who are now looking at the need for soft body armor, and so this is another area that we think is very important. The Traffic Safety Advisory Council is, I think, also a priority. OTS is seeing, and the State Patrol is seeing, more deaths on Minnesota roads than we've seen at any time since 2007. 488, I believe, last year, almost 500 Minnesotans that died on the roads. And as of this morning, we were at 94. We're a quarter into this year, and we're already at 94. And while that shows some success of the HEAT programs and many of the things that you supported, it's still work that I think we need to do more with. And this advisory council will help us take TZD from simply being a slogan and really operationalize it with community, which I think is an important component of that. Looking at Senator Jasinski, I want to thank him for inclusion of a replacement State Patrol helicopter and an increase to the base budget. I know that was one of his personal priorities, and we appreciate that. I can tell you from the conversations I've had with chiefs of police all over the State Patrol's aviation asset is not just something we can use occasionally, it's something we almost literally could use every day. And not just every day, but frankly, late at night when we're trying not to get into serious crashes while we're chasing down people that have been involved in carjacking, murders, assaults, drug deals, and other crimes. We really do need this asset. So we are very much appreciative of that. We think it's an important issue. This upgraded helicopter will do more than simply allow us to be better crime fighters, though. It will allow us to do search and rescue. It'll allow us to be an asset in so many other areas in addition to the state highways, which we think are an important piece. We'd like to see the increase in funding for the State Patrol's commercial vehicle enforcement. This will add sworn and non-sworn staff, and not most importantly, but certainly as an important part of this, is it will allow us to access $5 million in trunk highway funds that we are appropriated from the feds. And so we think that is another major piece of policy that makes sense. I would be remiss if I didn't thank the work done by Rick King and his expert review panel, which I heard mentioned in our discussion today. And we really do agree that so much of what he said in that study will impact positively the DVS system. And we are very much supportive of that with one caveat, and then that one caveat is in fee sharing. We have noted that while we are absolutely committed to deputy registers being compensated fairly for the important work they do, and we recognize that we could not do this without them. So this is not saying anything bad about the deputy registrars. In fact, it's saying something really good about them. But it also is saying that when state employees do 100% of the work, it doesn't make sense to give the funds that are derived from that work to somebody else, especially when it will negatively impact the Department of Vehicle Services' ability to do the work that I know so many of you have heard from your constituents about, when driver's licenses didn't show up in a timely fashion, when titles and registration were not available as quickly as they would have liked. You hear those calls, as do I. And further shorting the Department of Vehicle Services, which this fee sharing would do, will further negatively impact our ability to have good staff, well-trained staff, and staff that is able to respond in a timely fashion. As I said, this is not to say the deputy registers should not be compensated. We're just saying that they should be paid fairly for the transactions that they complete, and not ones that are solely and 100% completed by state employees. We are advocating for a collection of race and ethnicity data. I understand there is a hearing scheduled later in the week for that. This would be voluntary information, and we believe will help provide truly valuable information. I have talked to other commissioners from other states, and the Department of OTS, Traffic Safety, has shown me that where they have had this data, frankly, it will tell a more clear and accurate story about what's going on Minnesota's roads. And we think that accuracy of the data as a data-driven organization is an important component of this. As I said, it's voluntary, and it would be secure. It would not be data that would be on the driver's license. It would not be data that would be available to the officers that are on the road. It would be data that would be in a summary form for research purposes, and we think that makes a lot of sense. Having had to go visit with state employees who were assaulted at Arden Hills in Plymouth, we are concerned that we did not get as full of funding for DVS to install security cameras at the exam stations. We get that there are people who, when they don't pass their driver's license test, as one of my grandchildren hasn't on a number of occasions, that it probably is aggravating to the mom and dad who had to drive them back out there yet again. But that's no excuse for taking that out on a state employee. There's no excuse in my mind for assaulting state employees because you've had a bad day, or you or your child or your spouse has not passed their driver's license test. While we recognize the cameras won't absolutely prevent bad things from happening, we know from having conversations with the chiefs of police of those departments that we will, if we have the cameras, have a better chance of bringing people to account when that does happen. We are also supportive of making sure that the deputy registers also have funding so that when they have individuals that are in their lobbies that are out of control, that we also have documentation to support them. Increased data auditing capacity at DVS will help protect the important and private data in MnDrive, and it will verify that those who are using it are only the ones that are using it, and they're only using it for the right purposes. I know we're short on time, so I'll wrap up here. I want to thank you for the creation of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Relative Special License Plate, with that revenue from that going to help establish a reward fund. I can tell you, having worked on missing persons and working with this thought group, it is an important step forward to give them access to some additional funding. The school bus stop arm camera grants, we are once again very supportive of that. We are concerned that there is no funding for OTS to administer the grants, but we are absolutely supportive of the grants themselves and the work that was done to update the salvage title laws and other pieces there. In closing, I want you to think seriously about the recommendations that we are still proposing. I want you to know that the Department of Public Safety and my staff, State Patrol, DVS, and others stand ready to work with you as you work through this conference committee, and we hope that together this bill will enhance and increase the safety of all Minnesotans. And I will stand for questions if necessary.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. And I believe I was remiss to say earlier that there is written testimony from MnDOT if we didn't get all of their testimony in, and I think that we have a letter from the Met Council, and I believe also from your department. So we will be consulting those documents, and of course, consulting you throughout the process, Commissioner. So thank you very much for your testimony and your work.
Thank you.
Next up, we have the Chair of the Met Council, Mr. Zelli, and after him, we'll have Mr. King, and I'm very hopeful we can get to a couple others after that, but again, a hard stop at 4 o'clock today, members. So welcome to the committee, Mr. Zelli. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and conference committee members. My name is Charlie Zelli. I'm Chair of the Metropolitan Council. And it's my honor to appear before you to recognize some of the provisions that we strongly support and some provisions over which we have some concern. And I promise you I will be very broad and mention a number of issues, but not all of them. So I won't take...
Proceed as you would like.
First, I just want to express the appreciation for the importance of matching funds for the IIJA programs. One in particular that supports our zero-emission bus transition plan, achieves environmental benefits. There's a program in the IIJA that specifically funds that. And we know the governor has recommended $23.2 million, which is from the general fund for matching this appropriation. We recognize the Senate does provide matching funds, but at a long-term cost for our general fund base amount. So that is the only one nuance that we are concerned about in that provision. The Senate provision includes a number of policy provisions related to guideways that are troublesome for us. I will only mention a few. One is we are strongly opposed to any effort to suspend the construction of a line or add a municipal consent provision to an existing program that allows a municipality to revoke a previous consent of a project that has already completed a local planning phase. To be clear, we're not opposed to initiating a municipal consent process for busways like we have for LRT. It's just the timing and the fact that once we have made a decision and all municipalities have come to an agreement that we don't reverse that once we're deeply into the process. We are concerned about changing the funding approach to regional guideways. We believe that that would be difficult to achieve our regional transit vision if that were reconstructed. Regarding North Star, the Senate provision, and Interim Commissioner Nancy Daubenberger mentioned this, about asking the FTA to discontinue service. We've had informal conversations. We believe the study that we are embarking with MnDOT, our county partners, will consider all aspects, including discontinuance, and give much greater context and clarity about the questions that we will be engaging with the FTA on really in the months ahead. We think that is the best approach toward really getting a resolution for the North Star corridor. We're very supportive of the House provision for the Metropolitan Council to establish administrative citations for fair enforcement. It both decriminalizes a egregious penalty, but most importantly, allows non-police officers to issue the citations. And we are really appreciative of the bipartisan interest in this program. It allows us to lean into enforcement, and it is probably the one missing piece of a larger constellation of efforts that we're bringing to bear to ensure that we can recover the safety, the welcoming atmosphere that our customers and citizens expect out of both bus and our light rail system. The only, well, a couple other quick things. You know, I really want to take the opportunity to call out that investing in the Blue Line extension is that the governor has proposed $200 million We'd love you to consider some way to support the Blue Line. It is well on its way through a community-supported alignment. So it has gone through a process now, which we believe is a much better routing, and will have strong economic prosperity, inclusive economic prosperity of that region of the metro, which has really been calling out for it. And I'm pleased to say also that the Blue Line will be a much less, technically less complicated routing. There will be no tunnels nor co-location with freight. I also just want to take a minute in closing just to address what's on the front page, the damage caused by various factors, including this the Southwest Light Rail Green Line Extension project to the Cedar Isles Condominium Association. I've been in direct conversation with the Homeowners Association. We believe that we do not need legislation to come with resources to make bring repairs and safety for those private homeowners. The damage caused by a project is already something we believe we're liable for. And whatever an engineering report says, we know that we have to do the right thing and lean in and work with that community to make sure that they are taken care of. And most importantly, that this project can move forward, that a bike trail and beautiful landscaping can return to that area, and that people will be not only safe, but have the livability that they deserve. So with that, I know that there's other provisions. We will continue to be in touch with you, but I appreciate the opportunity to make my brief overall comments.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zelli, and appreciate your work. And as I've said to the other agencies, we look forward to being in contact with you throughout this process. And again, members, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And we only have about 10 minutes, so we'll do as much of the public testimony as we can. And again, others who have signed up, we will be contacting you if we can't get to you today about testifying for the committee at a future time and date. So our next testifier is, again, Mr. King, who testified earlier. As Commissioner Harrington mentioned, we had an independent expert review that got into a lot of different issues around driver and vehicle services, and Mr. King headed that up, and a number of provisions in the bill related to a report that he and his team authored. So, Mr. King, welcome to the committee. Please state your name again for the record and proceed with your transportation-related testimony.
Thank you very much, Chair Hornstein and Chair Newman and members. My name is Rick King. I was the leader of the group that did the independent expert review. It's primarily chartered in legislation to look at the fee structure for the deputy registrars and also for the number of exam stations. In addition to that, we were asked to look at efficiencies and other things that could be done across the ecosystem that the Department of Vehicle Services, Driver and Vehicle Services works with. My testimony is going to focus on a few of the key items that we talked about that are not in both bills. There's a tremendous amount that's in both bills. We're very thankful for that and appreciative. It's rewarding to see how that's been embraced, but I do want to cover a few things that way. As I said, we focused on the MnDrive system, how to utilize that fully, how to be efficient, and we looked at what kinds of efficiencies could be gained in the department, as well as using the system and thinking about also taking work out of the system as well. So I want to talk about the following things, and I'll lead off with just a comment to Commissioner Harrington's presentation, which I enjoy, and we appreciate the support of the department in terms of the overall piece. I want to note that the fee sharing issue that is in both bills, and we're grateful for that. Those fees come out of the special revenue account. They do not come out of anything that's appropriated to DVS. So that does not change a bit of any DVS funding, staffing, or
Recording
anything.
stopped.
That's a totally different issue.
Recording in progress.
I think that's important to note. There are three things, and then one additional broad statement I want to cover. First, on R20, there's a provision that changes the way DVS gets funded to make a different type of appropriation for individual items on the fulfillment of online motor vehicle registration and plates. You heard Commissioner Harrington talk about deficit funding request on the second item there. Doing something with this particular provision will in fact benefit and solve that problem in the longer run, because the department will be funded based on a piece part number of transactions they make through an appropriation that you would make from the special fund. So I believe that's something to look at. It is a Senate provision today in that on page R20. On page R11, we believe that the pre-application should cover not just the real ID, which is what is in the House provision, but it should cover all driver's licenses and IDs, and that is what is written in the Senate provision. On R8 and 9 and other various pages, our independent expert review made a recommendation about moving from 4-year driver's license and ID validity to 8 years. In doing so, we studied the most common number of years that are available in different states in the country. 8 is by far the most common length of validity for the driver's license and identification. 4 is the low number. 4 is where the state of Minnesota is. There's a few states that still remain on that. There are some with 6 and there are some with 10. We believe that having to only do that once every 8 years for individual residents will be a great benefit to the individual resident in terms of not having to come in and renew that credential. Our recommendation in testimony before the committee was that then the fees would be structured as 1.5 times the current fee for that 8-year period, but of course you could make it 1 times the same fee for the 8 years, which would be a great benefit, or 2 times. But we recommended 1.5 in there. Remember, the majority of the states do that, and we would definitely recommend that, and that is in the Senate provisions. It is not in the House provisions. One of the items we really like in the House provisions on R20 is the request for a report on digital titles and driver's licenses. While nothing like that is in the Senate side provision, I think the idea that we would do a report and we would understand that this is an ever evolving and changing landscape and this is the direction of the future, Minnesota would get a good handle on what they need to do to prepare for it. So our independent expert review favors that. I'll just rattle off a couple of final things and provisions generally. I would recommend taking a look at the exam station provision R16 on the Senate side. There's a report on a various number of other items, including the OLA's report on exam stations, which is on R21 on the Senate side. There's a very important commercial access point for data on R7. There's a difference in the two statutes that how commercial access is handled. We definitely favor the stipulation that calls out commercial differently than the public. And then finally, you can see that there's student rate passes on R19, and we think that that's an excellent idea, and that the mail-in surcharge on R5 is an excellent idea also. Both of those are in the Senate provisions. Mr. Chair, I'll conclude my comments, and I'm always available for questions from anybody. I hope the highlighting helped.
Thank you so much, again, for all of your work and all of your help over the years, particularly with this particular project, Mr. King. Members, we can go a couple minutes past 4. I don't know if we'll be able to get everybody in, but I would now like to call, we have 3 folks that have signed up related to the reintegration license. And this is a House provision. It's not in the Senate side, so I'd like to at least have the senators get a little bit of information on this. But if you could be brief, the 3 of you, I don't know if you're in the room, but there's Ms. Runyon, Ms. Rigling, and I believe Ms. Caldwell. Are you in the room or online here? Okay. Why don't you come in and testify, and just for a few minutes here, and we can at least get some background on the bill. So welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Hello, my name is Tierra Caldwell. Thank you for squeezing me in too, by the way. I'm a reentry consultant with the Power of People Leadership Institute. I'm here speaking in support of the reintegration driver's license
Mr. Caldwell,
bill.
could you pull your mic on just a little bit, and then we can hear you a little bit better. Thank you. Proceed with your testimony, Mr. Caldwell.
Is this better?
Yes, much better, Mr.
Gotcha.
Caldwell.
Okay. This bill would help reduce the cycle of mass incarceration in Minnesota. Providing a temporary license for returning citizens who owe fines is huge. Why? Having no legal transportation leaves them bound to a specific geographical radius. It would affect their earning potential by having them accept a close job rather than an equitable job. Legal transportation can provide a pathway to a positive pro-social environment. This bill would remove the barriers that would provide greater access to supportive reentry services. That support comes with a space to heal. With a place to heal comes a foundation. With a foundation comes structure. With structure comes accountability. With accountability, you have a strengthened prosperity pipeline that can break the cycle of self-hate associated with the trauma of incarceration, thus increasing self-sustainability, independent living, and being able to reunite but provide for your child legally, as well as access to proper education. 95% of individuals in the Minnesota Department of Corrections will be released back into their communities. 88% of the returns to Minnesota prisons in 2018 were for violations of supervision conditions. Driving with an expired license is one of these conditions. The driver reintegration will help end mass incarceration. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thank you so much for your testimony, and I was just consulting here with my staff to see if there were others on this topic that wanted to, well, no, on this particular topic who have signed up ahead of time. Seeing none, we are now at 4 o'clock. I know that there are several,
Mr. Chair,
yes?
there's somebody online who is testifying, who would like to testify.
Have they signed up? Okay, yes. Why don't we take your testimony and then we will adjourn. So if you could please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe there are 2 of us online. I'll go first.
Okay, if the 2 of you, yes, we'll take your testimony briefly, and then we will need to adjourn because we're past 4. But thank you very much for sticking around. We wanted to get your testimony in before we adjourn. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you very much. My name is Eve Runyon. I am President and CEO of Pro Bono Institute. Thank you, Chair Hornstein, Chair Newman, and members of the committee for this opportunity to testify in favor of the reintegration driver's license provision that is included in the House Transportation Bill. My organization, Pro Bono Institute, is a national nonprofit organization based in Washington, D.C. that seeks to promote justice for individuals in underserved communities. Primarily, we work with major law firms and companies around the country to encourage pro bono services to those in need. In Minnesota, we serve on the steering committee of the Minnesota Collaborative Justice Project, which brings together different organizations to improve reentry outcomes for individuals who are returning to the community from federal and state facilities. The Collaborative Justice Project includes representatives from law firms and companies in Minnesota, legal services organizations, the Department of Corrections, Bureau of Prisons, Minnesota Probation and Pretrial Services, as well as nonprofit organizations that provide services to individuals returning to the community. We understand the challenges that not having a driver's license presents to individuals trying to reintegrate into the community. It's a barrier faced by many of the individuals that the organizations in the collaborative work with every day and that we collectively serve as a project. Not having a driver's license, excuse me, not having a driver's license impedes individuals' ability to find and maintain employment, obtain housing, and reestablish family connections, as well as attend treatment and other community supervision requirements that are necessary for reentry. This is a widespread problem, and just last year, Mississippi enacted a bill similar to the one that's being considered here that provides a limited driver's license to reentering individuals. Having a driver's license can be an important first step to successful reentry. I would like to thank all of the agencies that have provided technical assistance on the reintegration bill, including the DOC, DHS, and especially DPS and DVS for their assistance to make sure the eligibility criteria are tight and do not conflict with other requirements like child support and the non-resident violator compact. I would also like to thank the authors of the bill, Senator Osmick and Representative Pimta. Thank you for your time today and for the opportunity to share our support of the reintegration driver's license bill.
Thank you very much, Ms. Runyon. And so our last testifier will be Ms. Jamie Rigling, and then we will adjourn and with some concluding comments from the chair. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
I'm Jamie Rigling. I'm a Minnesota licensed clinical social worker and a licensed alcohol and drug counselor. Thank you, Chair Hornstein and Chair Newman and members of the committee for allowing me to be a voice on behalf of our justice-involved individuals and advocate for the reintegration driver's license, Senate File 4558 and House File 4571. I'm employed by United States Probation and Pretrial Services as the Community Intervention Administrator, and I assist those released from incarceration with their placement for completing community service hours, employment, housing, identification, and transportation. Prior to this appointment in the federal judiciary, I served as a reentry affairs coordinator at the Bureau of Prisons for 9 years. During my combined 12 years of assisting justice-involved individuals, I've witnessed hundreds of clients released with unpaid traffic fees and fines that they incurred prior to their incarceration. Most people recently released from incarceration have limited financial and social resources. They're struggling to find felon-friendly employment and often do not have any income just to meet their basic needs. As an additional challenge, paying those fees has been pending in the Minnesota system for years and lead to extended suspension for up to 2 years under the current laws. It becomes difficult to explain to the clients why paying those fees leads to another consequence. Without a driver's license, it's more difficult to assist with finding housing and employment, especially in greater Minnesota. One client I've been assisting for 4 years had 4 different tickets in 4 different counties and were pending in the current Minnesota system for over a decade. His license would remain suspended until he resolved those tickets, but if he paid them all, we knew he would be resuspended under the habitual violator rule. Upon release, we had several court-ordered conditions to meet, including community service and a mandate for mental and chemical health. He lives in Savage, but has been working the overnight shift at a recycling center in St. Paul by getting rides from colleagues. Although this has been a struggle, he's maintained all of his conditions. Even though he served his time in incarceration, he found and maintained employment and followed all of the other conditions. There's no viable path back to a valid license for him for months and possibly years. This will continue to limit his work options and become a consistent challenge for him and his family. He and many other justice-involved individuals are the reason I'm here before you today, asking you to consider how legislation can change the trajectory of someone's transition after incarceration. It's well documented that finding and keeping employment after incarceration reduces recidivism and improves the outcomes for justice-involved individuals. We could demonstrate our support of their transition by removing this unnecessary transportation barrier with the reintegration license to give individuals a better chance of success into the community. I believe you have a handout in your packet, and I urge you to support this aid in mitigating the issues of probation officers and practitioners like myself of being able to hold those accountable on supervision to abide by their court-ordered conditions for community service and housing and obtaining employment by helping them reobtain their driving privileges. Thank you so much, Senator Osmek and Representative Pinto, for taking the lead on this bill. And thank you, Chair Hornstein, for including it in the Omnibus bill. And thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rigling. And with that, members, we appreciate folks staying a few minutes over, and our media services for indulging us as well in that. And that concludes our public testimony. I know there's a few others that signed up in advance. Looking at the names, they are very familiar to both of our House and Senate committees, and I consulted with Senator Newman, and we will arrange a time for you to come in on particular items if necessary. So we will do that, and you have our commitment that we appreciate your signing up, we appreciate your involvement, and we will hear from you later. So with that, I am going to hand this gavel back to our chair, and for any kind of announcements or direction, the Senate will have the gavel tomorrow. With that, I do appreciate again everyone's testimony, and the Senator Dibble, did you have a comment?
Just a quick question. We can leave our books and they'll...
Yeah, let's get into some of this logistical stuff here. The staffers, others?
Should we leave our books or maintain possession of our books?
Other ends, I would keep them.
Okay.
And so we will hear from Chair Kiffmeyer for directions tomorrow. The gavel shifts tomorrow to the Senate. So thank you again, everybody on both sides of the aisle, for a very good first day. Chair Kiffmeyer.
Thank you very much, Chair Hornstein. I appreciate it. And it's been kind of helpful because several of us serve on both state gov and transportation, so it's been really helpful to be a part of this. Representative Nelson had a bill to present on the floor, and we haven't been able to have a chance to talk about it yet. We're not sure. So I would just say stay tuned. There's a high possibility we will do it tomorrow, but maybe not. So just take a look at your emails, filing online, and things like that. I think with that, pardon? Okay, with that, I've concluded our business for today, and we are adjourned.